Hey, Patriots fans, if you want to see Toyota's best offers, including those not seen on TV, go to buyatoyota.com. It's Toyota's official website for deals from the official vehicle of the New England Patriots. Toyota, let's go to a press conference tomorrow at noon.
Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
Just a little side note. For all those people that, after Schefter and Reese came out with it, that tweeted, according to sources, can you just admit that the source is the tweet that you just saw?
I appreciate Fred's bitterness right there. That was
Anyway.
thank you. That was right up my alley. I like it.
I remember where I was when the first plane hit on 9/11, and I'll always remember where I
Sit next to
was when
Fred.
I heard the news that Bill Belichick and the team were parting ways.
Not comparing it to 9/11. I'm not sure.
He said history.
Computers, like the rise of computers. The social media didn't even exist when this team started. You guys were doing a newspaper. 56K, like,
Yeah.
like connecting the internet.
When Fred started, we had regular.
You've got blogging about it,
Yeah.
talking about hoodies, making memes.
memes.
You know me.
0-2, I threw 4 straight balls to the 9th batter, walked him, and the next kid did a 2-run homer, and I cried on the way home.
Jeff in Brooklyn says, well, it's time for Paul to retire so he can finally direct his 3-part miniseries on when it's okay to cry and watch.
I'm tempted by Green Bay. I think they'll show some spark, young team, but not enough.
Spunk.
Yeah.
I hate spunk.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Tuesday here at Gillette Stadium, and it's a whole new era about to begin. Jerod Mayo officially named head coach of the New England Patriots. Tomorrow at noon will be the introductory press conference. We will have that live on Patriots.com and our social media accounts, and it'll be Jerod and the owner and family and media, and it's going to be a whole thing tomorrow from the GP Atrium here at Gillette Stadium.
Never been there, so
Oh,
looking forward to it.
yeah, nice space.
Yeah, I was
Great
figuring
space.
I might have to come up to hang with you guys.
Yeah.
Come on up.
Yeah.
You're going to come for this one?
Well, I have to. We're not going to be on the radio.
I think everybody should be there.
Yeah,
You know, you're welcoming in the new coach, new head coach.
it's exciting.
You know,
I will say, I went home over the weekend for my mom's birthday, and there was just so much excitement back home over him being hired, and like he's all over the front pages of everything, all over the news. It's
so
crazy.
back home being Virginia.
Yeah,
Why?
because he's from there.
Oh,
like
he's
like we're from the same place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's like just kind of cool to see like his high school coaches like talking about him in the paper. I actually brought a paper home with me.
Yeah,
So
Nice.
it's
we,
just-
we got an Ask
crazy.
PFW from one of his former teachers.
Wow.
it's really cool.
Who
Okay.
who says that he had Jerod in the 7th grade Algebra 1 class
Yeah.
at the Jones Magnet Middle School in
Knows him
Hampton,
well.
Virginia.
Nice.
How
Yeah,
is
so
how
it's
is
kinda
he
just
with his
cool.
his algebra? That's the
Yeah.
Terrible.
Well-
terrible. He just couldn't figure out spatial things like geometry.
He
Forget
did.
it.
He did say that please give Jerod the message that I still have a project that he submitted titled "Why Will Algebra Help Me in the Future?"
Okay.
Oh wow.
Which, of course, the answer is it won't.
I was
So
gonna
that could be
say-
one of your questions, because Tamara, you'll sit down with him tomorrow.
Do you
said-
have that? Do you have that email, Tamara? I can.
No, I
forward it.
don't.
I'll
Do you
forward
mind?
it.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
you.
You can.
Appreciate it.
First question: why will algebra help you in this new role?
See, I like that because teachers all the time would be like, "You're gonna need math like all the time when you get older," and I'm like, "No, I just use my calculator." Like,
Well,
I'm not in my head doing tips. Some people are good at that. For me, I'm using my phone every time.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
They lied to us.
He just doubled the tax.
They lied to us. I mean, even like how they told us we're gonna have to use cursive for the rest of our lives. Do we really need to? use that?
they didn't know. I don't blame them. But it's going to be exciting tomorrow. Big day. Big hoo-ha. So,
Right.
He's got the big hoo-ha.
big hoo-ha
I
tomorrow.
mean something different where I'm from.
Oh, really? Oh. A big to-do, you know?
Definitely a big to-do.
Yeah.
But it sounds like he's been making some calls and interviewing the
Yeah.
special teams coach from the Falcons.
Boy, he's got to get busy.
Oh, did I miss that one?
So we went from
yeah, it was
hoo-ha to
yesterday.
get busy.
Who's that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I caught that up.
Forget his forget his name.
Not-
yeah,
not
so,
the Lubaku guy.
Marquise Williams
Marquise
is from the Falcons special teams coordinator, and Tem Lubaku is currently with the Panthers. outside linebackers coach. But yeah, just looking at Falcons Twitter a little bit yesterday before the other big Falcons Twitter news that we can get to.
Yeah.
They were upset like that they might lose Marquise Williams. I guess he's considered a pretty good special teams coach by everybody down there that follows the team and held in high regard.
Be funny if Bill went there and then we swiped his
Well,
special teams coach and brought him here.
No, but I'm thinking about it. So we know, it's not a secret that the Falcons have already announced that they have interest in Bill. I don't know if they've had an interview.
Yep.
Yeah.
Formal
They
interview.
announced that
And
they interviewed him yesterday.
There's rumors that, the feeling is likewise that he's interested in them. So if he goes there, does he bring Cam Accord with him? Does he bring Joe Judge with him? And is that special teams coordinator already, figuring out, okay, what's next for me?
Yeah.
And so he says, well, I'll go to the Patriots.
Well,
Yeah.
so
Do you think he would want to start fresh with special teams just with the way everything has gone, though?
Nope.
I don't know.
You think,
Nope.
you think he's...
I think he would take every last one of the coaches that he trusts
Yeah.
from here that he could possibly
Interesting.
take down there. But they already blocked Williams from interviewing with another team, so he's under contract with Atlanta at the moment. So they already blocked him, I guess, earlier
Really?
in the cycle from interviewing with somebody. So the Patriots put in a request to interview him. I haven't heard.
Oh, so you don't know that
I haven't
they
heard if it's been
it.
granted
Okay.
or not yet.
Well, that's the thing,
Yeah, the other one was New Orleans is the one that requested it. So they
Yeah,
blocked it.
right.
If the thing heats up with Bill and he makes it clear that, I'm bringing as many of my staff as I can, then maybe the Falcons will allow him to have the interview. It's what's going to happen in the next month is going to be unbelievably fascinating. I mean, between the Cowboys losing and that job perhaps opening up, the Falcons' interest, what's his name? Harbaugh supposedly has already talked to the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think that would be a home run for them.
yeah. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So Williams was denied an interview with the Giants. So the Giants put in a request to interview him, and the Falcons denied it.
So it'd be interesting if maybe when they met with Bill yesterday, Atlanta, and they said, there is a guy that we think very highly of on the staff. If
Right. if
you know,
Bill
because
says-
remember when Bill came here, there were guys that he ended up keeping.
Oh, yeah.
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 And it wasn't just Dante.
Right.
Ivan Fears was already here.
Yep.
There was Brad Seeley? No, there was somebody else too. There were a couple of guys that were already here, and he retained them.
Well, Charlie was already here.
No,
Oh, no. He didn't.
he took all those guys with him from the Jets.
Yeah, right. Trying to think who from what's his name? Not Seeley. He's got a son who coaches high school here now.
I like stories.
And he begin with an S. His last name.
Seeley?
Not Seeley.
Sweatman,
No, not Sweatman. Oh, you're getting close though. Anyway,
Skarnick,
no,
Samsonite.
I'll think of it.
Smith,
No. Anyway,
Sanchez.
so building these staffs is going to be priority one for Jerod.
Yeah. And what happens to Steve and Brian? I mean, I saw the report over the weekend that they were extended the opportunity to stay, but would they go with their dad, or what? I mean, what's the best thing for those guys right now to,
I think the best thing for them, and everybody thinks the same thing, is to get out under their dad and make their own way.
Yeah.
The Patriots offering them jobs, to me, it's two things. It's admitting or recognizing that, hey, they did a good job. Why wouldn't we want to keep them? And particularly Jerod saying that because he was intimately involved with Steve in running the defense. So if he's willing to have Steve back, then, what we were thinking might be the case probably was that he's a pretty good coach.
Yeah,
I
was
like,
listening
why
to
would
their-
he offer him a job because he knows what he did. We don't,
Yeah.
I
I was listening to one of Paul's shows, and they had Phil Perry on, who obviously is pretty close to Jerod, and he just said that right now he's hearing that they're wary of changing too much about what was going on here with Bill. Like they don't want
or anything.
too much, to all of a sudden we're blowing it up and it's a whole new coaching staff, a whole new front office, whole new head coach, and everything like that. So trying to keep the Belichick boys would be along those lines of like, let's keep some continuity of what was going on here.
Well, plus, if it's saying that, yeah, they're good coaches, but also if Bill's sons are with New England Patriots, doesn't that kind of like take some of the frost off of anything that might be freezing over at this point? Like, I know that it was an amicable breakup and everything like that, but now if he gets another job coaching, you're right, you're competing with him.
Yeah.
But if your sons are here, then maybe that he has a little bit more of a soft spot for the Patriots.
I think it's what Evan is talking about. I think that they've been a little bit reluctant. The whole ripping the Band-Aid off isn't happening, and I think that's part of it. I think they're going out of their way to keep as much as they can. The other part of it, and maybe this is a sort of a different viewpoint, and I get the idea that Steve and Brian might be better served to go coach somewhere, without their father. But do you really get that if you stay with the team that you've already been at for 10 years? Like, if they keep coaching with the Patriots, they're just doing what they've been doing.
No, but no.
Like,
but
if you're gonna like forge your own way, then Brian should get a job, with the Seahawks, and Steve should go and head up the Bears defense. That's like truly going out on your own.
It is. It's more, but without Bill here, they do have to do it their own way. So I still think.
But I think it's already established in something they've done for a decade.
Yeah, but they have to keep doing it. Without him, helping them every game day. So I do think it helps them that.
It's better than just staying with their father,
right.
But I don't really see the big difference. I think that from what I've been told, talking to people around the building a little bit, just the reluctance of they both have young families and they have roots here. They would like it to.
Sure.
They would like to stay here.
But if you're
I don't know. We'll see how it unfolds.
If you're the Crafts and you're going over the what went wrong, right? If you're willing to keep somebody, I don't forget who it is, whether it's Steve Belichick or Matt Groh, you're kind of saying that they may not have been part of the problem, right? You have to be saying that.
But
because if you think they were, then why would you keep them?
So then Bill was the only problem.
I think that might be the assumption.
I mean, it's hard to not come away. I know that was a little flippant by him,
No,
but it's
not
hard
really.
It's hard to not come away with that impression that they feel like the coach was the only problem.
Right.
The head coach.
We hear stories that they're not rushing into a GM search. They may not even get one.
We've heard stories that they're not going to do it at all.
Right. So
forget about rushing
if
in. If
that's the case and Matt Groh stays and Elliott Wolf stays, then you are saying that, you know what? Maybe it wasn't as collaborative as it should have been. Maybe we need to give these guys a chance. We're hearing enough from them about what really went on that we're going to keep them. Because, like I said, if you say your house is falling apart, you replace the house. So what they're saying is the house wasn't falling apart. It was just the furnace that we need to replace.
It's just the guy that built it.
I'll be interested to see what they do on the offensive side of the ball, because keeping Steve and Brian I'm good with, because the defense was, for the most part, they did the best they could without the injuries. With the injuries, I mean, offensively, I'll be interested to see who they keep. And because that was a huge
I think
problem.
A silver lining of all this going on the last couple of days, because frankly it hasn't been the greatest of setups so far, is that Lubica and Williams are outside guys, right? So he is showing interest, Jerod is, in interviewing guys that are outside the tree. Like, it's not just we're going to bring the band totally back together. They have a special teams coordinator who really has he has some loose connections to Jerod and the Patriots.
Oh, he does?
But
because the other guy has some connections too.
Yeah,
which they're not really,
But they're not
outside.
They're not out. But no one's ever going to be
in the NFL. That's the way it
completely
works.
outside.
Yeah,
they're not. But the point is that these guys have been different places. They've worked for different types of defenses, different types of coaches. In Lubica's case, I think he got close to Jerod from being down the street at BC. I think that they connected that way when he was at Boston College. So there are connections, but it's not like they're just bringing Josh McDaniels back and bringing Matt Patricia back and bringing back all these very familiar faces.
But it sounds like, not Patricia, but it sounds like they're certainly open to Billy O'Brien or Josh McDaniels coming back. Now, I don't think either one of those guys will be back, but I don't think that's because
No.
the Patriots don't
You
want
don't
him.
think Bill O'Brien will be back?
No.
Really?
But the question is what goes on then with the assistants, right? Like if wide receivers coach is different, O-line coach is different, and so on and so forth. Then at least they are. I think the coaching staff
you might get one of those.
Going to be some changes.
I think you'll have a new offensive line coach. I'm not sure you'll have a new wide receivers coach.
You're really not selling it, Paul.
No, I just
really
don't. I think Fred is right. I think that they've determined that the furnace was the problem, not the foundation. And I just look at it and say, well, how could it be so widespread, your decline for 4+ years, and it's just the head coach was not listening to anybody? That's why?
I know. And then, Paul, this weekend I went back so many times just thinking of how easy things were a couple weeks ago when you can just blame everything on Bill. And, we always talk about the draft pick misses and everything, and that's what I think we always kind of respectfully default to, that it's Bill. I'm not going to point at, Nick Caserio picked these guys and Matt Groh.
Yeah.
But
and I do think Bill had final say, absolutely.
But as we've discussed, there's a line. Certainly those guys have a part in it, and now they're going to give these guys, I guess, an opportunity, but there's nowhere to hide behind Bill
There's nowhere to
anymore.
hide, and if let's just say 2024 is not a good season, it's going to be on Jerod to make changes.
Yeah.
He's going to, whether you call it scapegoating or not, if the offense stinks, he's going to have to make changes to the offense.
And that's the thing. Like, they got to. I just you can get rid of Bill and say Bill was the problem, but the offense is a problem, and the offense needs to be fixed. And whether whoever's pulling the trigger on these decisions, it has to happen. But I found that so much of what came out over the last few days was just so all over the place. And Paul talks about it all the time, where we gave him the blame for the picks that we don't like, and we don't give him any credit for the ones we do. And there was a lot of that, like retroactive. Well, he felt like they should take a quarterback there, but he didn't really want Mac. But then he felt like he owed it to them, and but then we never get into who picked Cole Strange? Like, is that a Bill thing too? Who's getting blamed for that one? Who's getting blamed for Tyquan Thornton? Is that already Matt Groh, or was that Bill?
And it used to be the opposite.
Doesn't seem like a Bill guy to me. Doesn't seem like Bill guys.
And Fred
to me.
will tell you, when we went through the first part of the dynasty, with the 3 out of 4, it was the opposite. It was like, you see Bill, he comes up with Dan Copen and Asante Samuel and Eugene Wilson and all these, sort of, mid-round picks that turn out to be really, really good players. And then it was like, like Scott Pioli wanted, so-and-so, or Nick Caserio. He sold him a bag of goods on Tavon Wilson or something. And now it's completely opposite.
Looks like Nick Caserio is doing a pretty good job in Houston.
Like, do you think that Bill Belichick? I mean, I don't know. I know that Bill has final say, and I've always said that. But does Tyquan Thornton really strike you as this is a guy that Bill Belichick felt like he had to have? Now, N'Keal Harry does.
Yeah.
N'Keal Harry, to me, does sort of fit the profile of what Bill. If I'm going to take a wide receiver, it's going to be a guy who plays on 4 downs, blocks, is physical, does all, not just a diva,
Yeah.
God forbid.
But Tyquan Thornton does not, to me, strike the profile
But
of
to
what
do-
Bill would look
But
for
Cole
in a wide
Strange
receiver.
kind of does seem like a Bill one,
Yeah.
right? Like, you kind of go back and forth between picks of, what
I don't know.
just
He's kind of undersized guy. I don't know.
Yeah, we're trying to go
I don't
to
know
the-
if he strikes me as a Bill lineman.
I think it's just generally taking an offensive lineman there feels
I
like.
just-
Oh, yeah. No, that's got Bill
FCS
written all over
guards
I
got
feel
Bill
like-
written all
Yeah,
over it.
Back to the coaching staff situation, I feel like I don't care how good of a friend you are with Troy Brown, they have not been able to develop a wide receiver. Obviously, Jacoby Myers, outlier. I don't want to include him in this because he's made a way for himself, but I feel like overall, Tyquan Thornton should have been way better right now, even with the injuries. Even N'Keal Harry, he could have been a bust even with good coaching or not, but it's just I feel like they need a new wide receiver coach that can actually develop these guys.
I just think you need to let the offensive coordinator pick his staff
Yep.
and come with a staff that he's familiar with and that he wants to work with.
or at least
and
be
let him-
involved.
The thing about Troy is that his football IQ was so high, but it came naturally to him. And what comes naturally to him doesn't necessarily come naturally to these other kids. And it might be, for him, hard to teach what he just knows as secondhand.
Yeah.
Like Ted, I always bring up the example. Ted Williams tried to be a hitting coach for the Red Sox and failed miserably because he just couldn't he couldn't understand why these kids didn't get it.
Yeah.
It's because you're a natural talent.
Yeah.
Just
like
hit it.
you're, and I
Just-
think Troy Brown's the same way.
Yeah, and just all the issues with the route running this year, is it all because they were having trouble understanding the offense, or was it because
Well,
they're not being
but be
coached
fair
well?
though, Pop had a good year, right? I mean, I agree with what
Yeah.
you're saying, but like, you know,
Well,
but
he
Douglas
had a good,
did have a good year.
He had a good year, but I mean,
They had problems with that.
Yeah, I think he lost. He didn't have as much time on the field early because he wasn't running routes the right way, and
Fumbling.
yeah,
Yeah, no, but the fumble cost him playing time. But I do think that he struggled with his route running at times, and that was part of it. But I look at it, I'm kind of torn with Troy, and maybe it's because I like him so much, and I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Sure.
But I don't think that the guys that they have, N'Keal Harry, it's not like he left here and was like lights out somewhere else, and I don't think they have a lot of really good players at that position.
That's why I look at the receiver coach position as also a position of somebody that could bring an eye for the talent as well. Like if you're just
Fair point.
one of those guys, like, for example, in Minnesota, Keenan McCardell is somebody they interviewed for the offensive coordinator job, which I think was really kind of a wide receivers coach interview, to be honest with you. But Keenan McCardell, like those guys, they churn out wide receivers like it's going out of style in Minnesota.
Well,
like,
that's a good point because you need 5 or 6 deep in wide receivers. Not every one of them can be studs in the first or second round. You need to develop guys from the 5th and 6th round too.
Yeah.
So that would be an example of a guy, by the way, back to our other topic, if they brought a guy like McCardell in, like, yeah, you'd have some connections to him because Bill coached him, but he's really that's an outsider to me.
Yeah.
That's someone outside the organization.
I would just love
Because his
to
connection
get
was Bill, not the Patriots.
I think that Troy Brown is a really good like conceptual coach, and like he understands the playbook, he understands the plays, the schemes, what they're trying to do, but they need somebody that is like a wide receiver guru, like someone that understands has an eye for talent, someone that can coach release packages and top of the route and all that different type of stuff. I think Troy is probably pretty good on the whiteboard, but like when you actually get him out there to really develop these guys, I don't think many of these guys have gotten better at like the details of route running. Like I don't think that we watch Pop Douglas from the beginning of the year to now and be like, oh wow, like he's so much more sudden through his break, or he's he's cut down on wasted step. I think Pop Douglas is just good. Like I think that he's just good at those types of things, and I don't think it's necessarily developed. And same with Jacoby. I think Jacoby's just a naturally good route runner. I don't think that they made him that much better from start to finish. I think he was always just a pretty good heady route runner, and I just look at those things as reasons, with Troy, that I'm just like, I'm sure that Troy Brown's a super smart football guy, like he was as a player. But is he someone that can really coach the position and has an eye for talent at the position?
You don't know.
I just think if you're getting a new offense, you need somebody who speaks the language of the offensive coordinator. And these days of just trying to continue to hold over coaches from system to system to system, that it's all getting lost in the wash, it seems like. But I would be fine with a clean offensive break just generally, and get on a new track.
Going back to like the staff and was it all just Bill, or was it several things, and who was Bill listening to as in the later years. I heard something interesting on one of Paul's shows about, as the brain drain got, more, took more and more of effect on the staff, and the staff got younger, and, Bill actually started listening less, believe it or not, because, people just didn't have the experience that he had. And but I don't know if that's true or not, but I could understand that being the case, if the guys you trust are leaving, and you're left with people that you haven't worked with as long a time, and you don't trust them. I mean, I'm talking about their judgment. You just don't know them as well.
I just look at especially on offense, and I know that they lose Adrian Clem for the health thing, and they lose Ross Douglas towards the end to go to Syracuse, but the size of the staff, like they just don't have that many coaches compared to other teams, but also compared to what they used to have. You talk about like the staffs that won Super Bowls. I always go back to the 2014 staff because I think that might be one of the best staffs in the modern era of football. And you got guys that are like head coaches now that were like low-level offensive assistants on that staff. Matt Patricia is like a defensive assistant. Like what is that? Quality control coach. Brian Dable is coaching tight ends on that staff. And all these guys just end up going on to great things, and they were some of these guys were just low-level assistants in 2014, and now they don't have that layer of depth on the coaching staff at all. So I do hope that Jerod, has more coaches.
You do know Matty P had one of the greatest calls in the history of the Super Bowl in that game as the DC. I mean, come on, now. You got to give him his props.
Yep, just ask him. Yeah,
that was one of the greatest quotes ever. How someone could actually say that out loud?
Like, well, actually. You can't actually the media, like, when they're coming for you. Like,
actually, I do have one of the greatest calls in the history of the Super Bowl.
If you're so smart, let me tell you about something I did.
Yeah. All right. So there's a lot to digest, a lot to talk about, a lot to see in the next few weeks.
Plus, we got the weekend. If anybody wants to talk about the playoffs.
Yeah,
playoffs.
I mean, I think I got screwed.
Oh.
Did I pick the Steelers?
No, you did very well.
Oh. Did I pick the Steelers?
No.
Oh. I thought to cover or something like that.
You may have picked
because I picked that game under the assumption they were going to play in snow. It was just going to be running. So I think I got a little bit screwed on that one.
You did pick Pittsburgh to cover.
Yeah. So I got screwed in that game.
Yeah.
It was kind of unfortunate. Just not great. Not a lot of great games.
No.
Screwed. They fumbled and said it wasn't a fumble.
The Detroit Rams game.
That was
lit.
the only good game
That game
of the
was
weekend.
lit.
First half
So
of that
good.
game's like a different sport.
Yeah. But Dallas losing. And, by the way, Zolak stole my line.
What'd he say?
I always have a line when I'm watching the Cowboys and they start to lose. I go, show Jerry, show Jerry, show Jerry. And he took that line and he put it on Twitter. He said, show Jerry.
Show Jerry.
Because I told him I did that. He stole it.
Okay. So now we get it. Like you actually told him about it.
I told him on the bus that I do that.
What was a bigger surprise to you?
He probably did steal it.
Yeah.
Dallas or Eagles?
Jerry.
Dallas.
Oh, Dallas.
The Eagles,
I picked the Eagles
think
to
a lot
lose.
of people could. Yeah, he did.
Like that bad? Yeah.
Well, not
He
that
picked
bad.
Tampa out. Someone else picked Tampa outright. But Fred had a Fred had a big week.
Yeah, no, Eagles are a mess.
I think the Eagles, you could see that coming. I picked them, but it was a blind faith kind of at some point. Like you could see it coming. This is going to be a great 30 for 30 on the 2023 Eagles.
I still
in 10 years, like that there's something there there's something happened there that we don't know about.
I mean, I asked Evan this morning, and he pointed to the coordinators. I mean, that's as good as I've heard. Like what else? I mean, this is an all-star team that everybody was.
But they lost both coordinators.
No, I know that, but they were still 10-1, and I know they weren't playing great, but they were still 10-1.
Did you see
talent wins out?
Did you see
They
the
quit.
look on Jeffrey Lurie at the end of that game in the suite? He had the look of an owner about to fire his coach.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm surprised Sirianni was on the plane back to Philly.
I don't know if you heard this one before. This might be. I think they all stole it from me, Fred.
Yeah.
But do you think that maybe Bill was, maybe thinking about Dallas at some point Sunday afternoon when the Packers were killing them?
I didn't see that on
I
Twitter
didn't see
at all.
anybody tweet about that. I didn't see it once.
I texted Zolak while he was on the show yesterday, and I said, "You think there's any chance that Bill put in a call to the Packers on how to mix up coverages for Dallas?" Knowing that if Dallas loses, that job
See,
might
at least you bring something a little bit
There you
different
go.
to the table.
Yeah.
Like, literally 4,000 people tweeted the exact same
Literally.
thing. And then yesterday, when he interviews with Atlanta, the same 4,000 people had to tweet, question, have you ever had any experience coming from a big deficit?
Oh boy, I saw that joke made at least twice by people.
Twice? Oh my God! I tell you, you guys got to fix my Twitter. You guys got to fix my timeline.
It's all of us.
It was
You're
very
stuck with
copy
it.
paste.
Yeah.
Very copy paste.
Yeah.
Where do you think Bill wants to go? Like, I mean, do you think he would want to go to Dallas? I mean, I'm just spitballing, but
Dallas would be lit.
would that be super appealing to him?
You would make more money in Dallas.
Oh yeah.
I think.
Way more money.
Well,
in
Does he
Dallas.
want money though?
Plus,
Like, is
if
that
Jerry Jones
Yeah,
doesn't pay
I was
coaches.
gonna
Well,
say,
I
I
mean
wouldn't
because
know
of the
about that.
taxes, the
But-
taxes and the cost
okay.
of
But
living.
if you're the coach that can finally bring Dallas back to winning a Super Bowl,
See, that's-
that means more than Atlanta.
that's the angle
I
I'm
think.
looking
I
for
think.
of
See,
just
but
what interests him now.
I think he might look at Atlanta because I think he looks at Dallas as not a challenge because it's already a good team. He might look at Atlanta like they've never won anything. They're and I think they're a very good. I think it's very similar to Tampa. I think there's some pieces in place.
But he's not the quarterback.
Yeah.
It's true.
You know,
Yeah.
I think that it's easy to look at Atlanta and say, they're just a quarterback away. Well, he was just a quarterback away here.
No, he was not.
No.
No, he was not a quarterback
in
away.
21,
here.
they had a good roster. Like, they would have been a much better team, I think, if they had somebody that was not just a passenger in that quarterback spot.
Well, if they had an elite quarterback, they could have been.
Like Tampa
they could
just
have been
Tampa loses Tom Brady last year and then come back this year in the divisional round. They're better than they were with Brady last year. They had an actual plan that they went out and executed and got a quarterback.
He's played well. Let Baker bake.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh God.
What?
I was happy for him last
Yeah,
night.
he's
your guy. I was
all
happy for
banged
you.
up.
I was happy for
Back-
your guy last night.
He's back there.
He's like running
firing
around.
it.
He's got that bad ankle. He's running around doing the
He's got like
first down.
he's got like a sofa cushion on his.
Do you believe the notion that they're saying that Baker Mayfield is everything we wanted Johnny Manziel to be?
Yeah, kind of.
Oh,
I mean,
Johnny Manziel is an elite athlete.
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield is a slug.
Manziel would have been run. He's a better.
No,
runner.
I'm serious. He's not an athlete at all.
I saw
Slug
that.
was
I saw that
perfect.
tweet. Like, Baker Mayfield is everything we wanted Johnny Manziel to be. I was like,
Oh wow.
No.
I don't think they're even comparable as players. Now, listen, obviously Johnny Manziel was a mess off the field.
Yeah.
And I don't think Baker Mayfield's ever had anything bad in his off field.
No, great commercials.
No, seriously. But like, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. I've never heard anything bad about Baker
No.
Mayfield
No, I
off the
think they're
field.
very different.
Johnny Manziel was a train wreck
Oh,
off
yeah.
the field.
Yeah.
But
Good
in
dog.
terms of playing like styles, they're not even
No.
close.
I also just whatever.
what?
Johnny Manziel, people have overrated Johnny Manziel.
But Johnny Manziel, I mean, now you know why he was overrated. Because people saw the talent, but now you know that he wasn't
I never
doing
saw
any work.
I never thought he was all that talented.
Okay.
I mean, he ran around well in college, but like that,
He ran around by, him and Mike Evans basically beat Alabama by themselves.
No, well, I mean, like it helps to have Mike Evans, who turns out to be a Hall of Fame wide receiver,
Okay.
like 10 straight
Yeah.
1,000
And
yards.
what about the
season.
10 Hall of Famers Alabama had on defense?
I just think that if you watch, I think Mike Evans was really
He was really good.
the one that was pulling the cart there, and Johnny
I don't know
Manziel
about
were-
that. You got to give props to Manziel.
No, I don't. I think Mike Evans was the one that was doing
listen,
the harder part.
there's nobody at this table that appreciates stubbornness more than me.
You run
if
around
you just
and-
refuse to acknowledge it, then
You run around like this and throw a 50-50 ball to Mike Evans, and he mosses a guy. Like, great throw,
But you
Johnny.
run around for 20 minutes avoiding 7 sacks and then doing it. It's a little different.
Yeah, he was. He
How'd
was.
that
He
go
was
when he got to
incredibly
Cleveland?
talented.
He
He
really
was
was.
incredibly talented.
Yeah. All right. 855-PASS-500 is the Ace Ticket Hotline. Web radio at patriots.com is the email address. Any other news we need to take care of? I mean, there's all
There's
kinds
just
of.
so many bullets flying, and I
Yeah.
just figured you just have to wait a few days and let everything kind of settle to
Yep.
see where it lands because
But
the sides are sniping at each other.
I'm
and,
just worried that it's settled.
Yeah.
That's my fear.
Yeah.
That we're going to let it all settle. And,
Well,
I think this is the plan.
But if that's like we said at the outset, if it's going to be pretty much status quo, except for the head coach, then they're saying that we think the head coach was the problem.
Well, I mean, I'm still holding out hope for the offense. I think
Yeah.
that's, it still seems like things are on the table. I get maybe the ship has sailed with, upper management, at least through the draft. It is what it is. But I'm at least hopeful that there's going to be some kind of injection on the offensive
Me
side
too,
of the
Mike.
ball.
There has to be.
That can be
It
kind of
doesn't
the
have to be.
Coaches and players.
Yeah.
there doesn't. Well, there doesn't
Players,
have to
yeah.
be.
Players
But I
will
think
be.
I think you're going to get.
Yeah.
I think you're going to
Little
get it
something
because.
different.
Listen, if Bill gets a job, I'd almost certainly expect Josh to go with him, and I don't think Billy O'Brien wants any part of being back on that train wreck. So I think you're going to get what you want, but I think Billy O is welcome back. I think they would welcome him back.
Yeah.
I don't think Billy O wants to be back, and that says a lot because I think it meant a lot to him to return home
Yeah.
to work.
I will be amazed though if Bill goes to Atlanta and he brings Cam McCord with him. And,
That's
and,
what I'm
And
wondering,
they're fine
for
with
real.
that.
But I think
Like,
I think he
won't- I
will.
won't be
No,
shocked.
I mean,
Or
I
do you think he'll just take Joe Judge?
no, I just think. Well, I think he'd take both. I mean, I think
either way,
I've got
one of
news
those
for
two
you.
is coordinating the special teams.
Matty P will be running the defense too.
he's going to take what's familiar to him.
then-
That's why I'm surprised about Stephen Bryan. I mean,
I think they would.
you
they'll be
kind of
with him too.
You get kind of the reports of like a little bit of a divided locker room this year, right, between Jerod and Bill. And what side do you think Steve was in that? I mean, he's intimately working with Jerod. Bill's his dad. I mean, there's part of me just wondering if this, they offered them to keep their jobs, if that's just so.
You think it's just a bluff?
Like it's a bluff because we know they're not going to because they're Team Bill. They're going to go with their dad, and I mean, and to Paul's point, I mean, in some ways, I know that they're still with Bill, but for Steve was going to be the defensive coordinator in Atlanta, and he's going to go in and take the defense over. And I mean, I think that's a step for him.
But I think, like, I'll say this to Bill Belichick and his sons. I think it's a bad move to like bring your son in and make him DC. It's just not good for your son.
Yeah. Well, what's better, him or Matt Patricia? There's like.
Well, how about somebody else?
I know, but that's what's so hard, Fred. I think like
not
he's
that I
going to
care about the
stick.
Falcons or whoever he goes with.
But everything you've seen from him over the last 5-10 years is he's going to stick with guys he knows. I mean, he's going to take a staff.
Trust and loyalty is a big part of his psyche. I get it, but if you really want what's best for your sons, they need to go out and make their own way.
Yeah, I mean, I said it before. Young kid, young families, they don't want to move. But I mean, probably the best case for them is to go to a totally new team where they're, hired on and do a different role, and they can, just kind of work their way up the traditional way, that way.
But I think if Jerod Mayo keeps Steve Belichick and names him defensive coordinator, he's telling the world, this kid's good. I worked with him side by side. I know what he does, to the point where it's my reputation. I'm the head coach now. If our defense stinks, it's going to be on me, but I trust him enough to run it.
But haven't you
I
heard
think
all
that's
of
a
these,
huge statement.
Haven't you heard all these stories about how friendly they are?
Yeah.
Like, I think you could just as easily combat that with, he went with his buddy. He went with what he did exactly what Bill would do.
Now I'm the head coach. Now this is all on me, and I have to make sure I do what's best for me. And if he has,
you could make an argument. What's best for Jerod is to stick with his friend. You could make that argument.
Not if he's not a good coach.
Well, no one's saying he's not a good coach, Fred.
No,
I don't think anybody says he's not a good coach.
And what I'm saying that Jerod's saying he is a good coach if he keeps him.
Yeah, but I don't think anybody thinks he's a bad coach.
Some people don't know. Some people have no idea like who was good or who was bad. In that relationship.
But I think people feel like the defense has been okay, and he's been part of that.
But why?
I don't think people.
Is it because of Bill, Jerod, or Steve?
Well, I don't think people think it's just because of one of them. I mean,
but
a lot of people have been critical.
Don't you think it's a big?
I don't. I don't think it's anywhere near as big as you're making it out to be.
I think it is. If Jerod names him defensive coordinator, that's an absolute testimonial to the job
to their
Steve
friendship.
did. No, it's got to be his ability. Because if he's not a good coach, he's going to be firing his friend.
I
next year.
didn't say he's not a good coach. I don't know how many times I can say that. I don't think he's a bad coach.
Okay,
but I don't think this glowing testimonial to stick with what you know. I don't think that's.
But
I don't think it speaks as many volumes as you.
What I'm saying is, if what you know is really good, you stick with it.
I know he knows what he's doing, and he's my friend. Yeah. You stick with it because I know
what
I know. I don't know about the Lubica.
Tem
Lubica. I don't know him
Lucic.
as intimately as I do Steve. He might be a better coach, but I don't know him.
People like him.
Yeah.
Good reputation.
Do you understand what? Do you know what my point is?
No, I get your point.
Like, if I have my choice, I think you've been making a comment, Mike, for the last 2 months about how easy it would be to just stick with everything.
Yeah.
Right? The easy thing to do would have been
I know Steve. We got a shorthand.
Just run it back. I think it's the same thing here. I know Steve. I know I work well with him. I know he's good.
Yeah. I'm
just going to stick with it. I'm not going to. This is my problem with the whole process is I think that they cut off potential information. They cut off a chance to learn more from the outside, even though it was already set up. It was contractually set up with Jerod, and I have no problem with Jerod being the head coach. I think by not talking to anybody, you cost yourself an opportunity to gather information.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing here.
Like, it would have been nice to sit down with a Bobby Slowick and say, what are your offensive philosophies? How do you look at building offense and scheme and all that kind of stuff? And then go and compare it to the guys that they've had here. Billy O'Brien, Josh McDaniels, those types of guys. And I'm telling you, I think a lot of the things would be very different.
Fact-finding missions.
But, it's funny, though, because let's say, I'm not disagreeing with you, but who's the person here that's sitting down and asking those questions of Bobby Slowick?
That's my biggest concern right now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would like it, to be all of them.
Who's them? Robert,
Jonathan, Matt Groh, Elliot Wolf.
Okay, so you're making really Matt Groh the GM in this case.
But that I didn't do that. They did
because he's in charge of personnel.
They said they're staying here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, can I?
He's not in charge of hiring coaches.
Can I just do this?
He's in charge of getting tough, fast people.
Yeah, I'm not interested in who's hiring the coach as much as I am finding out information as to why my offense is in the prehistoric age.
And I want to know who.
Don't say modern offense.
I think they cost
get mad
themselves
at
an
you.
opportunity to find out maybe why. I heard Boomer this morning, right? Boomer Esiason, not Boomer Berman. Boomer Esiason talking about there are really 6 offenses in football that are worth anything. Did you hear this?
No, but
San Francisco, Houston was one.
Yeah.
Miami, and it's all of the Rams. It's all of the McVay, Shanahan,
it's the Washington coaching
staff.
Yep.
Let's find out why we couldn't. We tried to implement this 2 years ago. Let's find out why we failed.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying.
But you really want Robert Kraft asking those questions?
I want everybody asking the questions. If they're all going to be involved, Fred, I want everybody who's going to be involved to be asking the questions.
This is why my football czar needs to happen. Like, you need to have a football guy in the room that is beyond just the head coach and the personnel people, because they're too close to it.
And I want one very small, minor thing that backs up what Evan's talking about. That I wanted.
All right.
The Patriots have never had a general manager.
Dear Mr. Kraft, I have someone on my staff named Evan Lazar who is volunteering to be in the room.
First of
in
all,
the room.
Can I be honest with you? As much as I love to
Like
make fun of my
Hamilton,
boy
I wanna
Evan,
be in the room.
I would rather have Evan Lazar in that role
Czar Lazar.
than nothing.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
rhymes. There you go.
I appreciate that. That's the nicest thing he's
The
ever
Czar
said about
the
me.
Czar Lazar.
It's in
He
the
just
top,
compared you to nothing.
It's in the top. It's in the top 3.
Yeah, you
was
won. You won over nothing.
I mean, that's amazing.
Great.
But did you see the stuff over the weekend? The Patriots have never had a general manager.
Well, that's not true.
Are we just under Belichick?
Oh.
Are we going to be children about this and say because we've never had someone who has Scott Pioli, general manager, but instead it was director of player personnel or whatever the title happened to be for each individual guy that we've never had a guy? Bill Belichick has been the general manager, at least since 2004. Is that what Robert said the other day?
Yeah.
After the third title, right?
Yep.
Bill Belichick has been the general manager. Let's not be children about this because they've never had a guy with the title general manager.
Of course he was.
That's all.
Of course he was.
We didn't need to go on with that.
Yeah. All right, 855-PATS-500. Let's open it up to the listeners. Tomorrow noon, introductory press conference with Jerod Mayo. We'll have it live on Patriots.com. Until now, let's hear what you have to say. Until then, I mean. Sean's at Vancouver. What's up, Sean?
Hello, everyone. If Megan is listening now, she's going to roll her eyes, but I still have my Jerod Mayo jersey from 2008. I kept it all these years, and I don't think I'm getting rid of it. But, even though I'm a huge fan, I'm with Evan. I really think they need a GM who's not the head coach. I think they need someone separate to do that job, and I was kind of hoping they'd hire a GM before they announced the head coach. That was my desire, but I don't. Now I'm worried they won't even do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not like as caught up on the order of
Thanks, Sean.
operations
Yeah,
as some other people, but I just this organization has honestly been blessed with so many great football players, football minds that have walked through the door. That some of these people have to be interested in coming back to bring an experienced football mind to the equation, whether that's a former player like Jerod or it's bringing back a guy like Pioli or Dimitrov. And I'm not necessarily saying to make those guys the general manager, but can we get like a consultant in the building to
Dante,
whoever? I'm not saying like make that
I'm
guy
serious.
an official title.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be GM, but a consultant.
Right, like somebody that is a football person.
Yeah.
I don't want business people making football decisions.
Right.
That's how you get into trouble in any sport.
Yep.
And if they continue down that path, then they're not gonna go down a good route, because it's gonna be all the in the business world, familiarity and all this kind of people nepotism, all that stuff. That's what jives in the business world. In football, you gotta. I think right now that there's so many guys that at least they have the name Zach Robinson's been thrown around a lot.
I'm intrigued by
Quarterbacks coach and pass game coordinator right now for the Rams, obviously drafted by the Patriots.
Yeah,
but he's coached under Sean McVay for the past 4 or 5 years. So he would bring the McVay system here while still having some roots and familiarity with how things are run in New England. Like those types of people need to be considered. And if you're just going to consider Josh McDaniels or Bill O'Brien, then how do you expect anything to be fixed?
And to your point, Freddie, like you said, like who's going to be listening? Well, that's the kind of guy I want listening to that stuff.
Oh, it's fair. Patty and Agawam. What's up, Patty?
What's up, guys?
Hey.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Sorry, Paul.
Host on Listener Crime. Wow.
Ouch.
What's up, Patty?
Hurry up.
You know
Hurry
I-
up. He's opening his fork already.
You know I love you, bro.
Yeah, Paul's Food's
I
here.
I'm excited by the move, definitely.
You sound
I think, choosing Mayo over Vrabel, probably, not that they chose him, it was written into his contract, but to me it spells more of like them of going towards the more new age approach. And I just want to caution other fans, too, because I've already seen a lot of negativity out there about the hire that, the offense, there's a lot of glaring holes. If you look at, like, across the board, we have 0 tight ends roster next year.
Okay. No, we know the offense has trouble, but
yeah,
we don't need to go down the list. We know the offense.
Might take a couple years before it looks good, but I just wanted to ask you guys if you're making the pick at number 3, what direction do you go? Do you take the quarterback? Do you take a tackle? Do you trade down and get more assets? Me personally, the guy that I would like to see them take is Jaden Daniels, and I'll take it off the air.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, well, let's say that Caleb Williams is gone.
But you will be.
Let's say Drake May is gone.
No, he did cry.
But you probably will be.
Do you take a quarterback with the third pick?
My fear right now with Jaden Daniels is that we're coping. We're coping at the fact that we can't get one of the top 2 guys. So it's like this is the guy that's left.
He's right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's where I am.
And I don't want to take. That's how you end up with Zach Wilson. Is when you just take the guy that's left, right?
Yeah.
Or Mac Jones is probably an even better example. Yep. And I think Jaden Daniels is super talented. There's a lot to really love about his overall game. But as a passer, he needs refinement and he needs work. And I would not throw him into this mess. Like, if you're going to tell me that they have all new tackles and all new receivers and a new coordinator and all this, then maybe it's a different conversation. But with the information we have right now, I don't think that that's the type of guy that you throw into a system like this.
I like what Evan said. I found myself these last few days looking at the draft now through the lens of a Jerod Mayo, Matt Groh-ish, Elliott Wolf type, and it's hard for me to sell the tackle pick now. Like, I think if Bill were still here, I could feel like I can sell the tackle pick. I just don't know. With a new coach, with a new regime, looking to put their stamp on it, I almost lean back towards Jaden Daniels or even Marvin Harrison. And last week I would have said I'm out on that. I don't think it's a good plan. But I think it could make sense for this group.
If you're an owner and you just fired your longtime coach and you hired a guy who's never been the head coach before, you got all these problems with the offense. Do you say to him, in order so that he's not making knee-jerk decisions, you've got 3 years. You've got 3 years to get us back to be a playoff contender. Or do you say, I want results right now and, put the pressure on him, and now he's making decisions in the short term? What do you say to him?
I think he has to know he has some time, but look, we all know that this business can change in the drop of a hat, and teams can turn things around, but I just think it's going to take huge cojones to not pick a quarterback at that spot.
And what would you consider time?
For a new regime?
3 years.
Yeah, 2.
2?
You got 2.
Okay.
You got 2 to make progress. You don't have to get me Super Bowl caliber in 2 years.
Yeah.
But you have to make
progress.
progress.
But
You
with
have
a
to be
third
in an
overall
upward
pick,
trajectory.
starting off with a third overall pick
in every round.
And
second.
And it's hard to say, well, hey, we're going into year 3. This, Joe Alt, he's been great. Our offense is still kind of mired because we don't have a quarterback, but there's nobody screaming off the left edge unblocked anymore.
Yeah.
It's just hard to sell it. It's hard to sell it. Or
I'm with
Marvin
Evan.
Harrison.
I'm with Evan on Daniels. I am talking myself into it, and I wonder if I'm doing too much talking myself into it, and he's not really worth that.
Right, because isn't the fear that because of all the reasons why you just laid out, you reach on the quarterback because it's the pick that makes the most sense. And if that's what you're going to do, then you could get yourself into trouble. Whereas if you do give Fred's 3 years, the methodical approach is what the Lions have done. It's what really the Texans have done when you really think about it. I mean, they didn't get the quarterback until this past offseason, and Casario's been there for a couple years already. Like, if you just expect to fix all of it in one offseason, I think that you're in trouble.
Well, I threw this scenario to Evan, and I was like, look, don't judge me, and like, people don't call in. I'm not telling you that this is what I want to have happen.
Kids say
all
don't
right?
at me.
Yeah, right. Don't at me with this, but I'm just putting this scenario out there into the ether because I've recently kind of made the case of Chicago, keep Justin Fields, build around him. You've got one more year of him. If it doesn't work out, you replace him.
So that a quarterback can drop to us.
So
Now we're talking Drake May.
you bring back Josh. You put Mac back in there. You give him Marvin Harrison.
No.
You draft him a tackle at the top of the second
out.
round. And then you see what happens.
I pointed to the door when he
Yeah,
said this.
no. See, I
That's what I want to do.
No, see, I was
Come at
thinking
me.
when you started
Oh,
to
we
talk.
will.
When you started to talk, I was like, oh, okay, you mean quarterback's gonna fall in our lap. But similar to Mike's theory, my theory was, okay, maybe they'll decide last minute, okay, we don't want to keep Fields, we're gonna trade him. Or, Arizona, maybe they don't want Murray, and they'll trade him. So what if you got one of those guys, but then you were able to get Marvin Harrison?
I'm curious,
somehow?
what were you going to do at 3 if the Bears
Marvin
hold on to
Harrison.
Fields?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you
You're
said,
gonna
right?
tackle-
That your whole thing was predicated on the Bears were going to hold on to Fields.
Yeah, hold on to Fields and do the same thing. Like draft Marvin Harrison for him, get him a tackle. You know what I mean? Just build around the
So
quarterback
what are we doing
position.
with Mac Jones?
We're going to build around him. We're
With
going to
what?
finally
No.
give
With
with Marvin
no.
Harrison and
Well,
But
no,
Marvin
the Bears-
Harrison went to the Bears. What?
Yeah.
is always he still
In your scenario.
Right.
I know, but you're
Nabbers.
you're
Nabbers. It's
No.
time for Nabbers.
I'm gonna.
It's-
I
it's
would.
your
I
take.
would bang for
Nabbers.
Nabbers.
Here we
too.
go.
That was
Here
my
we go.
joke. So I watched. So I did a lot of wide
It's
receiver.
neighbors.
No, I did. I know. I did some wide. I watched a bunch of the wide receivers, and I made the joke when Evan walked in. I'm
Malik
like,
Nabbers. Here we
I don't
go.
know if you've heard this kid from LSU, but Nabbers, he's really
So
good.
interesting that you say that, though, because there's so much talk about Harrison. You got to take Marvin Harrison, far and away the best
So give
player.
him- yeah.
He's the generational. I heard Boomer Esiason say today he liked Azunze better.
Yeah,
Like-
I don't know about Adunze being
I-
better, but Malik Neighbors is
I'm not
definitely
telling you.
up
I'm not.
there.
I'm not
Yeah.
a talent evaluator expert. I don't pretend to be. But
All right, so
I'll pretend.
like
for
when
you.
Andrew Luck was coming out, there weren't a lot of people saying that. Fred Kirsch was actually better than Andrew Luck.
Right, he was
When you're a
consensus,
transcendent, player
Right.
at that level, there is really no disagreement.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I just was.
I think they're just
Maybe it's just
stylistically a little different.
one voice in the wilderness and Boomer.
Yeah, Adunze, saying Adunze, I think that's a little recency bias from the
Could be.
college football playoff because those guys didn't play, obviously, in their bowl games and stuff like that. So you don't have that. I think with Harrison and Neighbors, it's a little bit closer, and that's more just like stylistically, what do you prefer? Like my comp for Marvin Harrison Jr. is Devontae Adams, right? He's a guy that has a frame of a 6'3", 6'4" receiver, but can break down like he's a much smaller guy. Whereas Neighbors is really Jamar Chase, right? It's just linear, explosive, down the field type of athlete. So like it's just whichever one you want is.
I would agree with that.
Is sort of like the
So game it out.
situation.
So give them Neighbors then, all right? If Chicago took them, but
Yeah,
that's,
I
what,
just-
I'm,
I just
that's
think
what I'm
that-
saying. Like,
Mac Jones can't
Yeah.
reach Malik Neighbors on
Yeah.
the field. Okay, that's the
And
problem.
there are also. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, those top 5 receivers historically have not been great.
Well, all right.
In
When we,
terms of
when we
working
come
out.
back, we'll take more calls and emails. I also want to talk. Has the sentiment for Mac changed a little bit again?
Oh.
We'll talk about that after this.
Get in on the action with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the New England Patriots. New customers can download the DraftKings app now and play free for millions in prizes using code PATS. That's code PATS only at DraftKings. Minimum $5 deposit required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
iPhone 15 Pro on Verizon.
This holiday, trade in any iPhone in any condition for the new iPhone 15 Pro with titanium, Apple TV 4K, and 6 months of Apple One. All on us with unlimited Ultimate. Go to your local Verizon store now. 6 months of Apple One, then $10 per month. $999.99 device payment or full retail purchase with new smartphone line on unlimited Ultimate plan required. Less $1,000 trade-in/promo credit applied over 36 months. Promo credit ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. 0% APR. Apple TV 4K and Apple One offers require eligible phone purchase with activation on unlimited Ultimate. Additional terms and conditions apply. Visit Verizon.com for details.
And we are back with the Patriots Unfiltered halftime show. This has been pushed due to some unforeseen circumstances. You can guess by my tone what happened today. We have Faith, co-host, and I'm going to let her run trivia today before we get into our little show. So, Faith, let's go for it. We're running out of questions here.
We're running out of questions. We're coming up with stuff. Matisse has given me the honor of having the trivia today. So, Matisse, as you always tell me, don't answer the questions.
I got you.
First question: what was the final play in the old Foxborough Stadium?
All right.
Second question: who was the first opponent to play in the Patriots' new stadium, Gillette Stadium? So who did the Patriots play first in Gillette Stadium? And last, who did Doug Flutie do his famous last drop kick against? So a lot of opponents.
Yeah. All
in
right.
these trivia
And send your
questions.
answers into webradio@patriots.com. You'll win something. I don't know what we have anymore.
You're going to win something really good.
We have a lot of goodies. But Faith, as I said earlier, this has been pushed a week or two. And so I have a little rant about college football. And for the
All right.
listeners, I am a very casual college football fan. I get more into it when it comes to draft season. And, more highlights. I watch the big games. And so we just had Michigan beat University of Washington. And Faith is from South Carolina.
I am.
Go
yes.
Gamecocks, right?
Absolutely.
And so she's more of a college football guru than I am. And so I'm going to go through this rant. I have about 5 takes. And I'm going to let Faith react to them. All right?
All right.
This is for the playoff/championship.
Okay.
All right? And
College
so my
football
first
playoffs.
yes.
Yep.
And my first rant has been addressed because the issue that 4 teams, what were we doing? That was just bad to begin
Yes.
with.
Yeah.
FSU got screwed. Georgia
Yeah.
got screwed kind of. Like it's fixed. That's fixed. That was rant number 1.
Their game was ridiculous.
All right. Issue 1.
All
For
right.
real issue 1.
Okay.
The game is too damn late. All right.
Okay.
I'm 30 years old.
Yeah.
On the weekdays, I like to be in bed before midnight. They pushed it up this year. I think it started at 7. The ball didn't get kicked off the damn tee until 8:15.
Yeah, it's kind of become not to the level of Army Navy, but there's so much pregame, so much hype around it, so much extra stuff that you're right, it is kind of pushed. I also had the complaint. I'm 23 and I had the complaint that it was too late. Like I only stayed up till halftime and then
it's crazy.
I was crashing.
It's crazy, and so that ties into something else. But that's number 1.
That's very valid.
Okay. Number 2, the trophy sucks.
I like the trophy.
No, the crystal ball was great.
But you can imagine probably how many times, like, that's so breakable. That's the problem.
Doesn't matter. It's you can get to do it. The trophy stinks. It used to say Dr. Pepper on it.
Okay, that's a bold.
Like so, every other NCAA winner gets that like weird trophy.
See, I would rather the college football playoff, like the football trophy, than what the NCAA gives like every other team.
Okay. Just it needs to be fixed. Maybe when they expand it, they get rid of this thing.
True, but because I can say from being from South Carolina, I saw plenty of women's basketball national championship trophies and SEC
Small
tournament
flex.
trophies. Had to flex that, but they're not. I would argue they're not as good and or cool as. You don't like the gold, like.
It's better now that doesn't say Dr. Pepper on it.
That's fair. But all the Dr. Pepper fans probably liked it.
Okay. Number 3, we gotta make an event like the Super Bowl. Like, hear me out.
All
There,
right.
we need more funny commercials. All right, just like you're putting me through this game, and if you're like, just give me something as a casual fan. Funny commercial. I don't know.
So people who don't like football would still want to chime in because there's something else happening.
It's just like a very blah fraud.
Yeah.
And some of the games are good. Maybe it's just tough because the game we just watched, like it had moments, but it wasn't that good.
I think that's the problem is like the real weekend, the real moment is those like semifinal games.
Yes.
Those are the tight games.
Yes.
Those are the exciting things. And then it's almost like you make it to the national championship and it's either too late. It's also less late in the season because they play it so late. It's like college football ends at like Thanksgiving.
Yep.
So then you've got this like really long break of like bowl games, but you're just like by the time you roll into January, it's not that people don't care, because people certainly care, but it's just there's such a big time period between the last regular season
more,
game.
Depending where you are, like Michigan
Yes.
and all right. So part 3.5 of my rant.
Oh boy,
there's too many commercials. All right, like I wanted
They're
funny
not funny,
commercials.
there's too many.
Yes, and like that, I think that's not just a playoff issue. That's the whole season. They got to fix that.
Yeah,
All right, but-
there's
all
a lot of TV breaks for sure.
Question 4,
Yep.
or number 4, rant 4. This is a
Yep.
big one.
Uh-huh.
Why is it on a Monday? Why, like be on a Friday? Maybe with the new expansion, it gets pushed back.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the week between the Super Bowl. I would love that. Have it Sunday,
Oh my
Saturday.
gosh.
But
Yeah.
I either want to watch it on a Friday or
Yeah.
Saturday. You can't do Sunday, and now you can't really do Saturday because of NFL. I don't know. It just Monday. What are we doing?
I feel like you could really lean into Saturday because that's college football.
Yes.
On Saturdays.
Yes. Saturday.
And it's also tough. Like you think about like like kids having to stay up late on like a
Yep.
school night, adults like us, like us, having to stay up on a work night.
Or if you want to go to a bar, who goes to a bar on a Monday?
Yeah, the kids aren't going to the bars,
Yeah,
but
but-
you know we might want to
Yeah.
go to one. Yeah.
So you agree with that?
You're making valid points. I'm
Okay.
not saying the system is perfect.
And
by
number
any means.
number 5. And so I wrote this list out during the game because I
Okay.
was frustrated.
Yeah.
And number 5, this just goes to all of college football.
Yeah.
You gotta get rid of the targeting rule. Because
Yeah.
I said when I sent this to my friend, get rid of the targeting rule because it's the worst rule, and I'm sure it's gonna happen this game. And it almost did. It almost happened at the end, and you're throwing a player out and it's just bad.
Yeah.
That's once again just for all of college football.
I can agree. I feel like there's certain rules. I've always had an interesting thought on the whole like one toe versus two toes. Like if you're training college football players to only get one toe in, how does that fully translate when you have to get two in
Yeah.
the NFL? Like I feel like there should be more connection so that you're training players to know exactly what's going to happen in the pros, even if you don't make it to the pros.
Got it.
So I think you're making valid points. I want South Carolina to win the national championship next year.
It's just like what if Michigan's like star defensive back gets a targeting play in quarter 1? It's done.
And then he's done.
Just I don't know. It needs to be done. But that is my rant. I've been sitting on that. And clearly the game
Sitting on it
happened
for
a
a while.
while ago. Faith, thank you for getting the trivia.
Of course.
And all right, let's get back to Patriots Unfiltered.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
And now, great moments in history.
You know,
he used to fish with my
Yeah.
grandfather.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
you
they
never.
were-
Please tell.
I know that he had a 28-3 shirt that he sold. I
Right.
don't know that his grandfather used to fish with
So
Ted Williams.
they all use Shakespeare rods
Yeah.
with Ted Williams.
So my grandfather was a longtime track coach at Tufts.
Oh, that grandfather.
From the early 30s all the way until he died in the early 70s, and he developed a friendship with Ted Williams. There's some interesting newspaper articles that I've dug up that it's my grandfather. I never met him. He died before I was born. Clarence Ding Dussault. The track at Tufts is named after him. But they used to go. Him and Ted would go up to New Brunswick, where my grandfather did all his summers, and they would fish together, fly fishing. And this is the crazy story. John Henry Dussault Williams. They named his middle name is Dussault
Wow.
after my grandfather. You go to newspapers.com, you can do a lot of searching. I found one that's like, Dussault teaches the Red Sox how to run. So my grandfather went down to Florida and was talking to them about like speed and stuff. So he's got a whole story. I've got all his.
I got a
scrapbooks.
feeling there's a lot of stories that Deuce isn't telling us about.
I'm getting through them slowly but surely, but
Yeah.
that's one of the
That's a
better
great-
ones.
that's a great one.
Yeah. The moral of the story is you're kind of a disappointment in your family.
That's another great moment from
Now, I know the reason you played that is just have an excuse to play the song.
Oh.
So let's hear it.
Oh, Deuce, yeah. People have been saying this has been get stuck in their head. Face.
Okay.
Here we go.
This one's for Mike Dussault.
Yeah, here we go.
This one's for Mike Dussault. He made his name in blogging, and he's a youth hockey referee. And don't you ever forget those 28-3 tees. He's last in the picks, and he's sneaky negative. But he knows his hoodies and he knows them good. Did you know that he used to live in Hollywood? Okay.
Here we go.
This one's for Mike Dussault.
Yeah, here we go.
This one's for Mike Dussault.
Okay. Here we go.
He's sneaky negative.
Okay. Here we go.
This one's for Mike Dussault.
All right.
Thank you,
Good
Joe.
stuff.
It's just so good.
It's
Good stuff.
the
Here we
the
go.
second one that's just so good. And as everybody pointed out, since the song, the Cowboys haven't won a game yet, so there you go.
Well, and then they
Keep playing it.
You cursed the Cowboys.
They had the ball for about 9,000 snaps in that game, trying to come back in the second half too. So okay,
all the time, and it's so annoying, right? I mean, that must annoy everybody. Does that annoy everybody? It's all I can hear the whole game.
No,
It's just
I love
like
Yeah, it just makes me chuckle now.
every single time.
Yeah.
But you curse the Cowboys. You're like JJ Redick.
That's right.
But
And
with
we
football.
invented
The
that,
curse of
Mike.
Deuce.
You and I were
The
the
curse of
first ones
Deuce.
on that.
Right. And
Remember
Big
we
Jim.
were like listening to the TV and we're like,
my God.
is he saying okay? Here we go.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So that is Jill's
Yeah. Yeah.
What's her last name again?
Jill.
Jill.
New Hampshire.
Just Jill.
Jill from New Hampshire. Yeah. Great song. All right, before the break, I kind of teased a little bit about the sentiment for Mac Jones because it's been kind of a roller coaster. Obviously, when he was drafted, it was like, okay, great. We've got this guy from Alabama. Best rookie season, in a long time for any quarterback and all this stuff. And then, obviously, last year went down even further this year. But is he starting to get a little bit more support now that these stories are coming out and how it was a situation where hardly anyone could have succeeded in? Is he getting a little sympathy these days as compared to like a month ago?
I mean, not from me. I don't know.
Not from me.
I mean,
I sense it.
I mean,
I haven't heard much.
I have.
I mean,
the Macolites, they're still there. They were there during the season. This isn't his fault. They have no offensive line. The Macolites.
Deuce wants
I want
to bring
it back.
back
We
Mac.
got to run it back with Mac.
Yeah.
Run it back with Mac. That's my
Mac
T-shirt slogan.
McDaniels 2024.
No, we were talking about it upstairs a little bit, and it's as hard as things were for Mac Jones, I think you would have seen something if there was something there, and that's why there's still people out there that say, and I always go back to what Bill said. He can play in this league. I think there's still people that think he can play in this league, and that's why I brought up that scenario, which was 100% not a real scenario that I'm advocating for. Everybody who's writing in right now to yell at me. Beep. But
like Trot Nixon over there, backtracking.
Right. No, I took it back over the break. But I think he deserves probably a clean break, but I don't really believe that he's going to go elsewhere and suddenly flourish. I think he kind of is what he is.
So let's just say that they do get a quarterback in the first round. Does he deserve at least to get to training camp and fight for a starting job for this year?
No.
Well,
not because he doesn't deserve it. I don't know about that, but I just don't think that him or Bailey Zappi's the right guy for that role.
Yeah.
If you're going to draft a quarterback 3 overall, that's your quarterback, right? It's not like Mac Jones going to beat him out in training
No, but
camp.
we've also talked about, wouldn't it be nice to just have a veteran so that he doesn't have to be thrown into there?
So go get a veteran.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you want to bring in Gardner Minshew or
Matt's a veteran now.
No, but I would not want a broken veteran leading my young rookie quarterback. You need a fresh situation.
You need the Brian Hoyer mentor type guy. Obviously he can be better than Brian Hoyer, but in terms of actually playing, but you need the Jacoby Brissett, the Gardner Minshew, the someone that has there's no notion that he could be starting or think anything differently of I'm here to mentor Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
and that's it.
I'm not saying that if you kept Mac, there would be a notion that he would start if you picked somebody in the top 3. I'm just saying that he's a placeholder.
I mean, I just would speak also, talk to Andy and Fitzy this weekend about this. I always advocate draft a quarterback every year. I mean, I'm not in the business of just casting aside quarterbacks unless you really need to. I think it's just, you never know when you're going to need one, and you have put a lot into Mac. I stated at the top, I don't think it's there, but at the same time, I think there is an argument to be made of let him come in and fight, and let's, see what emerges from that. I mean, I think I would be against that argument, but I just generally think when you need a quarterback this bad, you've got to turn over every single rock that you possibly can and try to figure out not only how to find the guy, but how to bring the best play out of the guys that you have.
So no one else is sensing a little bit of turning of the tide.
I haven't seen it. I mean, I've just seen it so much focused on Bill and back and forth and Mayo and all that
but
stuff.
certainly some of the story details cast him as a sympathetic figure a little bit.
Not to me,
No?
but
I mean, there
will
was
say
the thing of hearing multiple voices in his headset. I mean, that was one thing I read that, I don't...
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That one I just don't really I need more information. Yeah. I feel like that was just kind of thrown out there, and I just need a little.
The frequencies were screwed up, and they were talking
they were listening to Scott Zolak on 98.5.
Right.
I would say, and don't just because I don't think it's been a change in the groundswell or anything like that. I still hear the occasional calls that are telling you that no one could have succeeded under that scenario.
Right.
The Macolites. That's what I still think there are people. I was on for 4 hours on Sunday, and we got a handful of calls that were saying, "Don't you think it makes sense?" And it's like, no, I really don't. Now, I also don't think that Mac will want any part of coming back.
No, that's probably the biggest piece.
I think probably one of the first orders of business in the offseason will be Mac going to Robert Kraft and asking to be
requesting
to be sent somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that would be in everybody's best interest to grant that.
I think that I'm with you, Paul, that Mac is not the guy, and we would have. I think Deuce, you said like we would have seen something if we felt that way. You know that like Trevor Lawrence in the Urban Meyer year, right? No one was gonna truly succeed with that Urban Meyer Jaguars team, and I think it's similar with Mac over the last 2 years. But Trevor Lawrence clearly showed things in that Urban Meyer year that were like, all right, once he gets a stable environment around him, this guy's going to be pretty good. And I just don't know if we ever really saw that level of play from Mac Jones. But I agree with the sentiment that last 2 years, nobody was going to succeed with this. No, Matt Patricia calling plays and then the talent that they had this year, no way.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, like, if the stories are true about how it was supposed to be a collaborative pick, but Bill really wanted to wait for Davis Mills. He was perfectly content to do that. You know, he felt he was pressured and didn't really give him any help. Does he become a sympathetic figure within these walls? You know, I don't know.
For Bill, you're saying? Or
for the craft?
I think that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he became a sympathetic figure within these walls over the last 2 years.
And does that carry over to 2024 and give him one more shot?
Not if they paid attention.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Like,
he's facilitating.
Like, I'll say, like, Trevor Lawrence, right, that Evan brought up. He's had his struggles for 3 years. He's been a little up and down. He hasn't really established himself as, you know, in that echelon with, you know, the other good quarterbacks in the AFC. But I haven't seen him handle this stuff. Like, do you remember like his rookie year when there was a whole thing about the quarterback sneak?
Yeah.
He didn't kill Urban Meyer for that.
Yeah, no, I mean, he didn't kill Urban Meyer. He had plenty of opportunities to throw Urban Meyer.
He was a stand-up guy.
And I'm not telling you he did everything perfectly right. Like, so, you know, whenever you say something like that, someone will immediately send you a link to a story from 4 years ago where he said that Urban Meyer's a meanie. You know, like, I just feel like
kickers.
In general terms, he's handled his 3 years of ups and downs a lot better than Mac Jones has.
I think that's part of it, though, right? Like in terms of seeing
and that's
the
why I'm out
flashes of the franchise.
That's why I'm out, because I haven't seen the ups.
Yeah, and
I only saw the downs.
And to be honest with you, I think if we weren't coming off of Mac Jones, then it wouldn't worry me as much. But like Caleb Williams, that part of it, not the nail painting and the crying and all that stuff.
He cried, Fred.
But just like the maturity of him right now, and like how he's going to handle adversity and how he's going to handle, you know, the Boston media. And
here's where I'm a fraud, and I'll be fully admitting that I'm a fraud. I'm not as worried about those things because of the talent. If Mac Jones had that kind of talent, I would absolutely be a fraud and tell you, that doesn't bother me as much.
That's why I'd
You're
still
more forgiving
take him.
for some magic down the field.
That's why I'd still take him. But I think that there are those concerns I feel like that people have about him. If you're talking about it in the right way, if you're talking about him painting his nails, then you lose me. But like if you're talking about the maturity, the football character of the player in terms of his maturity level, then I think that that's a legitimate gripe.
The Pelissero piece today, a tweet talking about him already at one of those. He's already in his pre-draft. You know, I know a lot of the other guys are too. I'm not saying that Caleb Williams is unique, but for a guy who supposedly it's not that important and this and that, it seems like he's
I
putting
see
in
a
the
little
work.
bit of not from playing ability, but in person, I see a little bit of Cam Newton and Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and I would sign up for that in a blink.
Yeah, 10 years of Cam Newton.
I'd take an MVP.
Does he use that
The
font?
playing. Yeah.
Oh God, I hope not.
I just wish that the conversation, not to make this like a Caleb Williams show, but like I just wish the conversation around Caleb Williams was actually like talking about the pros and cons of him as a football player, because he's not a perfect prospect on film, and no one is, but like he's not. I don't think he's in like the Andrew Luck.
Yeah, and that's my benchmark. You know, I never heard one really negative word that draft process about Andrew Luck.
Well, you know, while I was watching Nabbers this weekend, along with the rest,
It's really
I watched
upsetting me.
I watched the quarterbacks and the receivers. But this was my thought on Caleb Williams. It was like, why do I see so many plays where he drops back, good pocket, he sits there, he breaks the pocket, he runs around for a minute, and then he just like chucks it, and it's like, whoa,
with his feet off the ground.
Well, maybe not that extreme, but you know, it's just.
What you mean, like Jordan Love on Sunday?
Aaron Rodgers.
That's what the big That's what
Jordan Love was
like
better.
a great majority of things when you watch like what makes Caleb Williams great. It's like, and sometimes it's like he breaks the pocket on his own. Like, it's not like there's pressure or
He
anything.
definitely holds the ball.
He's just standing there.
He plays like Mahomes.
And so, you know what, that's just, I mean, and you realize, again, and I've said this, I'm going to say this 100 times this spring, this is what I've taken from these last few drafts, is that there are one or two quarterbacks in this. And I don't know if it's Caleb Williams or not, but there's one or two maybe. And the rest of these guys are all going to fail. And that, like, I have this new, like, negative, pessimistic view of the quarterbacks now of why are they all going to fail?
And I would be willing to accept that if you do that to all the other positions too.
Sure. Oh, no, I mean,
because
Matthew
because there will be 4 or 5 tackles taken in the first round, and 1 or 2 of them will be able to play.
Yeah.
And everybody will ignore the other 3 that busted because they're tackles and no one cares.
Yeah. No, and
except for Evan and Greg Bedard.
And Matthew Stafford in his prime
That's
or Caleb
2
Williams.
compliments today.
Well, Stafford or Williams.
That one wasn't necessarily.
Well, that's, I mean,
I'm
Paul,
gonna take it
but
as
that's what's funny is, like, I mean,
I care about what matters.
You know, I think I get what you're getting at. I mean, and I'm not really trying to use this as an argument to say
I know you're
tackle.
not. This was more about.
Like,
Yes, you are.
I've almost
Get
found
there.
myself going more towards wide receiver land than going to tackle land at this point.
Okay. So
And I would use the
Of
same
those early
argument there.
ones.
And I'm not talking about. Listen, there's going to be 30, 40 wide receivers taken, and there'll be 10 good ones.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the 4 or 5 that are going to go in the first round or whatever. 2 of them will be good. How'd Kevin White work out?
Who?
I do hope
Former mayor of Boston.
I do hope that we've our
Was he West
eye
Virginia?
for wide receivers have changed from the Kevin White years, where it's just big man run fast. You know, I hope that we've
But I just feel like
evolved.
people, you know, it's like, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I mean, this guy's like, Jalen Waddle. They knocked it out of the park. Yeah, and there are other guys that get taken you don't remember.
Jalen Rager.
You know, Quentin Johnston.
Well, we remember him.
Right?
Not the right reasons.
Well, Brock.
Did you happen to see that somebody gave him an All-Pro
Yeah,
vote?
I did.
Ew.
I don't know.
As
It
a
must have been
returner?
himself.
No,
Did he get a vote?
I assume it was as a returner.
Did he vote for himself?
That makes sense. He was a good returner.
That's insane.
But your receiver, the receiver take, like I'm not saying, calling it your receiver take is probably a little strong because I don't want to put that on you.
All right, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
So
Deuce, you going to answer for that?
You have a quarterback that can't throw, and an offensive line that can't block, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is down the field wide open, jumping up and down like a crazy person. Like, I'm just trying to figure out where. Like because I look at the Jets and Garrett Wilson is 1,000 yards every single year coming off the bus.
Yeah,
they can't win a thing. So I just don't really see how.
Stole my argument.
Like how is that help? Like Marvin Harrison Jr. is a super talented player, but how does it help your bottom line?
I'm already on this other side of the street. Well, first of all, I would say I wouldn't just run him down the field if we can't protect. So I would probably have him run a shorter route tree.
You know, Deuce.
Deuce would very nuanced.
Deuce would run 97 shallow crosses and say,
Right.
"We got it.
We're running mesh."
I would run
We're
mesh
running
on
mesh.
I mean, I'm Lincoln Riley. I run mesh on every single play.
No,
I get it.
No, and this is good conversation because I mean, and I'm not fully where you're putting me right now, but I just at least see some of the consideration that you have to have, and especially as a new person coming in who wants to put their stamp on the organization. And if you have questions about the quarterback, which I admittedly I went into kind of this weekend kind of like on Jaden Daniels, but I'm much higher on him now, and I mean, it's a great question. You're right, and
You've been watching a lot of film this weekend.
I did. I watched the quarterbacks and some
the
receivers.
playoffs are on, Mike.
Well,
Enjoy
I heard
yourself.
about this Nabbers guy, and I was just intrigued.
Enjoy
I started
yourself.
watching it.
And when you have
Polk's the other
and
one I
when you
really
have-
like.
If you have a take, stick with your take. Don't
You-
back
you
away
gotta-
from your
you
wide
gotta-
receiver.
You got to watch Roman Wilson.
I haven't watched him yet.
Yeah,
Roman Wilson's a nice player.
Yeah,
the Oregon
he's your
kid.
kind of guy.
What do you guys think of the Oregon
Troy
kid?
Franklin,
Yeah.
he's Taekwon Thornton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rail thin, super fast.
Yeah.
I don't want any more of this.
Yeah.
All right,
Good.
let's
I'm
get
all
to the
set.
phones. We'll go to Tim in Boston.
Let's
What's
put
up,
a pin in
Tim?
that. You got more to say.
Hey, everyone. Just to talk some of these first-round quarterbacks real quick. It seems like every one of these guys has a flaw, as usual. Got to teach them how to read a defense, fix this guy's mechanics. But in the history of, developing quarterbacks, which one worked out most often? Is it easier to teach someone to throw than it is to read a defense?
I would say, based off of recent history, the Drake May mold has worked out more times than not. That's Drake May is like Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, that type of guy. That Drake May's got footwork and some lower body mechanical things that if you get him with Jordan Palmer for an off season, odds are that he's going to probably figure it out. And that's what those guys did. I think that guy usually works out a little bit. Jaden Daniels is the only comp for him really is Lamar. It's just not. He's such a unique player that I think it's difficult. Like the Caleb Williams one is like that's Zach Wilson. Like that guy's got boom or bust potential all over the place that I would be concerned about. Like I think Drake May is the guy that he understands the position. He knows what he's looking at. He understands how to, work the middle of the field. He just needs to fix some of the refinement of his mechanics, and he's going to be fine.
You good, Tim? Okay, I guess so.
Take that as a yes.
Let's go to Spee in Fresno. What's up, Spee?
Mike's new jingle is a thing of beauty.
Yep.
Joe is giving Mr. Liff a run for his money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man, I agree with what you guys were saying earlier. With that the decisions so far maybe suggest Kraft saw Bill as the problem, and the plan more or less seems like run it back minus Bill. But I'm trying to reconcile that because Kraft maybe flip-flop. Like he gives Bill that contract extension in late October after you losing to the Saints and the Raiders. And now Bill's the main problem. It seems
that's
like
what,
a little bit of waffling.
Speed, that's when you found out about the contract extension. That's not when he got it. They didn't extend him in
when
October.
Do you think it happened?
After last season.
Yeah, probably around this time last year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it was still after they just sent that letter.
I think out of all of the things that, since this kind of brings it up, like out of all the things that all this talk about like the Krafts meddling too much and stuff like that, and clearly that's what Bill thinks because that's what's out there. Like the biggest thing to me out of all, like Kraft coming in and saying that Matt Patricia as an offensive coordinator, Bill, that's not working out. Like that's the job of an owner, right? Is like save you from yourself.
Yeah.
And be like,
there's a degree of meddling that should be done by the owner. He's in charge.
Right. Like it's the voice of reason of being like, we're not doing this. Like this is crazy. But
That's crazy.
He's right.
In writing that Jerod Mayo is the successor to Bill Belichick when Bill Belichick is still coaching. He made Bill Belichick a lame duck. That's what it did. Like they made Bill a lame duck. Like
I think they would probably
and I heard this thing
that.
on Paul's shows, like this whole thing. Well, the plan was he was going to be here for 2 years, and hopefully the team was going in the right direction, and then you hand it over to Jerod instead of where it is now. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so if the team's heading in the right direction, why would Bill want to leave?
Yeah,
like
because they were figuring that
He'd
Bill
retire.
would get his record, and he would probably be looking to step down.
Probably, but what if he wants to keep coaching? You know,
then you do it for another year. I mean, let's face it, he's not going to coach that much longer.
I think the Krafts were ready to pull the trigger at the beginning of this year if it didn't work out.
But so they made him a lame duck, and then from everything that we've heard, it divided the coaching staff. And it divided the building because people knew
that's kind of my point.
Can I pick
that
at
Jerod
this?
was the next guy.
Yeah. So are you suggesting that maybe it was intentional, that it would quicken the pace of the deterioration?
Maybe, but I do think that they were open to. I don't think in other words, I don't think there was a 2-year plan. I think there was a plan as soon as it was needed to make the change.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that, but I do think they probably looked at it as it wouldn't be this year. It would probably be 2 years.
Yeah,
and it didn't work out that way. But I agree, the larger point that I agree with Evan on is, I think unintentionally, I don't think that Robert knew this was going to happen. I think unintentionally they set Bill up to fail, and it ended up dividing some within the coaching staff.
Yeah, probably.
But the original plan was to basically give Bill 2 years so he could get the record and then off to the
that's what
sunset
people
and drop
say.
it.
I've
So-
never heard anyone confirm that.
No,
Yeah.
Fred's right.
Fred's
right.
Yeah, it still would have taken two 9-win seasons. I mean,
yeah.
I look at that setup, and when you look back on it now, like that's a dysfunctional setup. Like
Well,
you can't promise somebody a job when the guy's still here.
I've heard people say that they sealed Bill's fate when they wrote the letter to season ticket holders at the end of last year.
Well, I think it all kind of goes hand in hand. That's
Thanks,
when the
mate.
Mayo thing happened.
Right. And then Mayo goes and has the Karen Grigian ask the question, and he says the timing is interesting. And at first I thought, the timing's interesting. He's saying that because they're 3-13 or what? No, he was saying that because he knew that he was the next guy, and people in the building knew it too.
Yeah.
So, the timing is interesting. All of a sudden, now I have this contract that I'm the heir apparent, and now people are starting to talk shit about me. It's like
this guy loves to throw the S word out.
He did swearing.
Yeah. He's a little potty mouth.
He's got a potty mouth.
If that's a swear word, then we have a very low bar.
Well, it is.
Well, nowadays, yeah, they say that on regular
They
TV.
really do. There's no more like, you know, they used to beep it out like, forget you.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they did
forget
on
you.
ESPN last night. You know, one of the press conferences, someone did that.
Did a beeper?
Yeah.
feel
No,
like
no beeper.
No, just
that word is like
it's just a bleep.
If I said the F word, then I'd be mad at myself. Saying
Might have been
that
Sean
one is
McVay.
like, no.
After the Sunday night game, he might have said something about
sugar.
S word. Sugar. honey,
Chris
iced tea.
with a T-I-A-N. Hey, Christian.
Hey, where you been?
Lazar, mouth like a sailor. It's crazy.
Where have you been, bro? What do you got doing? What do you got more important than this?
Getting out.
Well, look, it was a very emotional week last week, Paul. It takes me a while to call it. I got to get my bearings about me. 24 years is a long time, you know.
Okay.
It was,
Didn't realize you were so intimately
I've been for Bill's job
connected.
for the past 2 years, and then as soon as I log on to the website last week and see him and Robert walk out, if I was in the room, I probably said, "No, don't leave. I love you. Please stay." It was a surreal moment.
Yeah. It's hard.
So I hear everybody's thoughts about the Mayo hire, and I get it. Like, I would have liked for them to have gone outside and look around, but I'm putting my faith back in the ownership. They identified this guy. They clearly like him, and they went ahead and rewrote the contract and made him the guy. So and I do like what Robert did last week, coming back out after him and Bill to answer questions. I thought this year he was really getting killed a lot for not commenting on this season and Bill's job, and I thought it was important for him to come out and do what he did. And as a fan, it to me, this may sound kind of corny, but it meant a lot. It meant a lot to hear from him, and for him to to have that time with the media.
Yeah, I think it's always important for fans to hear from their owners, especially in times like this. That
you have to.
Yeah, they're as upset or motivated or whatever as you are. They want to win as much as you do.
I just like.
Thanks, Christian.
I don't want to speak for everybody, but Jerod's not the problem with what's going on right now.
No,
I'm actually pretty excited about Jerod. I think it's the idea of it is great. I love that he's a younger coach that hopefully will have a little bit more of a modern spin on it. I love that the players love him. Like, I think that's very, very clear. It's everything that's going on around him that is concerning, right? Like, there's no general manager. You're hearing a lot of stuff, and a lot of people are talking, by the way. Like, we're not supposed to say much, but this is as much chatter as I've heard around the building.
Well, everyone's
in 25 years.
Yeah, everyone's lining up. It's still, the dust hasn't settled from last week. So
there's a lot of there's a lot of people in this building on the football side of things that don't know if they have a job or not.
And I would agree with Evan with regard to Mayo. I don't have any problems with him being identified as the successor.
I think it's in all our interest to support him and make sure he.
But even if it wasn't, I still think a lot of Mayo. I think highly of him, and I don't think it's a terrible choice.
Mayo go together.
I just think that it didn't need to be done the way it was. But I think you bring up a great
our Pad from Hungary. He
okay.
disagrees with you, Paul. He says, I don't mind not doing interviews. You make those interviews, and at the end it turns out it was Mayo anyway. No chance for those coaches who went in for the interview. It would be a bad look for the Patriots. They'd be losing credibility.
Disagree.
I also have no problem with the head coaching interview is whatever. Like, you think Mayo's the guy. Great. What the offensive coordinator? Are we going to have an actual process for that, or are we just going to pick Bill O'Brien back? Like, it was last year an actual process, or was it a sham? Because I think it was kind of a sham.
That's where the reporting's been all over the place. I mean, between the report Josh could be back, that came out early last weekend, to Bill O'Brien could be back, to, and then the guy in Carolina is defensive, right? Defensive coordinator, interviewing him. So even that through the lens of, could Steve come back? I mean, is it even necessarily as a defensive coordinator? Could he just kind of stay as a linebackers coach? So I think this is the questions we're waiting for now. What staff does he hire?
I'm intrigued that they're even interviewing people for leadership positions on the staff, which means that Jerod is having an open mind about these positions. Like, if it was just going to be Steve, then why bring Tem Lubica even in the building, right? Like, or virtually or whatever. So at least like there are some rumblings that there's openings on the staff, and he's not just filling them with retreads. Like, there's a legitimate process.
I mean, the special teams thing is legit too, because that's another thing that they've gone by the wayside, and that's a bad special teams you talk about. You just could use a fresh start there. This is an opportunity to do it.
Sebastian from Clifton, New Jersey says, "Did you know that Lazar is Spanish for the czar?"
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Lazar.
Is that true?
Lazar.
So football czar is.
I'm available. You don't even. I'm already on payroll. Like, you don't even need to.
Claire writes in, "Hello everyone. Hello Marine.
Hello Claire."
I totally agree with Fred. It would be great for Steve Belichick to stay at the Patriots, and the Patriots and for Steve. Steve gets to prove his worth without his dad, and the defense is so bloody good. I hope Mayo balances bringing back some of the good and finding lots more. As for Bill moving on to another team but running it back, that's kind of why he had to go. He's too much of bringing it all back, and that way no one can move on."
I don't really have anything against Steve Belichick, but I'd love to see DeMarcus Covington get a chance. Like, I think he's outstanding young coach. He's just been one of my favorites, and
he had the best position group on the team this year.
Yeah.
Defensive line was by far the best prepared, best coached, best play, all of it. So,
Todd and Garner, I have noticed in multiple reports that Mayo feels that these new kids need to know the why for what they.
Yes, they need to know the why for whatever
they're asked to do.
That's
Now, wasn't
pesky
this the
kids. I
exact
wanna know
complaint
why.
coming from Mac regarding the offenses he was asked to engage in after McDaniels left? Is there a chance that the team feels like Mac was mismanaged and that they owe him another shot?
Yeah, there's Freddie.
Yep.
I think that you can end the sentence that the team thinks Mac was mismanaged. The other shot part of it, I don't really see how that's pertinent.
This is a message to the Crafts from Matt in Framingham. I thought the smear campaign by the Crafts in the Seth Wickersham piece was total BS. The Crafts made the right decision to send Belichick packing, but for Pete's sake, don't be like that dirtbag John Henry with putting the hit pieces with Terry Francona with Bob Holler from the Globe. You're better than this. Take your medicine and try to fix the mess Belichick left behind.
Okay, I'm not going to go all Homerific on you here.
I think that was.
But I think that went both ways.
Oh yeah.
I think the hit pieces went both ways.
I think there were people talking from both camps.
Yes.
In that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I wish didn't go on. Like, I wish from both sides.
I wish at least it could have gone more than like 18 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Before we started hearing about it. I mean, obviously they both knew what they had already said to the authors of those, Van Natta and Wickersham and was it Wright Thompson involved in that one?
Yeah.
Nick from Omaha, question for the group. One thing we saw this season were the fans and players' desire to roll with Greer or Cunningham, and Patriots Unfiltered summarized this phenomenon as simply because it's the other guy, which I agree, because people like talent that isn't tainted yet.
Yep.
If the rumors are true that Mayo's contract terms to be the successor leaked and it influenced relationships this past year, are we concerned that the players and others like Mayo simply for the same reasons? It's not your current bad option and you just want to move on to something untainted. Or do you feel more encouraged for Mayo in this situation?
No, I think he's been up front doing it. I mean, I think the thing with Malik Cunningham is that fans were just kind of assuming, that he'd be great. I mean, and the players talked about it in the locker room and kind of insinuated that maybe he was. But at least with Mayo, we've talked to him. We've seen him on the sideline. We, know a little bit. But it's fair as far as he's not the most experienced guy in the world. This is one of the fair criticisms of Jerod Mayo. He doesn't have, this depth of work outside of this organization where he's, coached multiple position groups and, seen a lot of different stuff. He's kind of been pretty insular here in New England, and, that's part of it. So I don't think you're totally wrong.
I think the Cunningham situation is first, I don't really remember any hue and cry outside of fans for Will Greer.
Yeah.
I don't remember any players talking. But I think the players looked at Cunningham some of them feel like he was done wrong because they didn't let him play quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, so that's kind of a different dynamic. It wasn't necessarily that they thought Cunningham, I think Trent Brown said it, that, maybe, who knows, he could have given us a spark and added some electricity to the offense. But I think that the biggest problem the players had with that situation was that he wasn't allowed to play quarterback.
He's misused.
He was misused, mismanaged asset potentially. Yeah.
Couple people emailing, they're not happy with the not interviewing people other than Jerod. So just to get that out there, people are saying that. Andre from New Jersey says Fred always have this saying, back in the days when the Chargers used to get off the bus in cold weather and blah blah blah. That's what it was like for the Dolphins in KC, a high-powered offense that only scored 7 points. Speaking of Fred, I'm a little disappointed in him. I thought he has all the power, the boss man, where he can sit in big meetings on Thursday to talk Robert Kraft out of the decision to fire the greatest coach of all time. Come on, Fred, if you would have said something, Belichick would still be here. I probably would have said what he did.
What makes you think you wanted to talk him out of it?
Yeah.
Miami's problem this year was more than just
the weather.
On
so
Saturday.
many injuries.
They got killed. I mean, they had to
But
sign up like 3 new
their
edge rushers.
their offense basically did that against playoff caliber opponents for most of the year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a couple of exceptions here and there. They played very well against Dallas, but for the most part, they got shut down by good teams.
Yeah,
it was like pretty much like any team over 500 they were not great against.
They're a fascinating team offensively, just because their efficiency number, like everything's off the charts with that offense, and then they get into these games and they can't score.
I thought they didn't run the ball enough Saturday night,
especially inside,
early in the game.
Yeah.
But you know, I do think that their injuries like sort of prevented them from having any chance of.
I look at
any
McDaniel
noise.
like that was a big thing for McVay, and I know when they won the Super Bowl with Stafford, everybody plays that offense very similarly structurally, defensively, and then McVay ended up putting some more inside run game into the playbook and like really installed like a duo run game, and all those like wide zone defenses that they're facing that put all their numbers out on the edges. Now all of a sudden they're going right up the middle at you and
see Green Bay versus Dallas.
Yeah, and I think that's where McDaniel's issues is right now, is that they're wide zone, and they're just running it right into the game plan of the opponent.
Doesn't it kind of frustrate you a little bit that the Patriots didn't have more ability to shut that offense down? Like, because I know that they didn't really get rolled over but they haven't really been able to beat Tua.
You know my answer, so I'll stay out of this.
It's frustrating, The other teams seem to give them a lot harder time for the Patriots defense that is pretty well respected.
I still think that the Patriots defense has some issues with the teams that can horizontally stretch the field with their speed.
Yeah. But I mean, to your point, Paul, I know what you're saying, but like
they were better
twice every year.
I will say this year I thought they were better against good offenses than they have been in the past, but still kind of average.
Yeah, it's just I would just think at the sample size, like even with Josh Allen, it felt like maybe they started to catch on a little bit this year. Like they got to do that with Tua next year.
Connor says, what are your thoughts on Cliff Kingsbury for offensive coordinator and pairing him with a rookie quarterback?
So Cliff Kingsbury is going to be a coordinator somewhere next year, and it very well could be following Caleb Williams because he's at USC now and apparently has a pretty good relationship with Caleb Williams. I mean, if you're one of these teams that's just like desperate to get any sort of spark for your franchise and you're picking at the top like a Washington or something like that, it's a tempting pairing.
Yeah.
Marty writes in, with Bill now actively looking to coach somewhere.
Marty.
Do you think some other teams, such as the Bears, Jaguars, and Jets, are now regretting sticking with their head coach? And do you think any of them might change their mind now that Bill's on the market? Personally, I think the Jets are actually the best fit for Bill in terms of roster. And we know he loves Rodgers, but I doubt
he doesn't love the Jets.
He would ever choose them.
The Jets were a non-factor. I don't think the other teams are.
You can't fire your coach thinking you're gonna because one guy. You don't get him, then you're.
I do find like the whole Bill thing fascinating though, because I see a lot of Dallas people that are kind of pushing back on the notion of Bill going there because of his age, and they're looking at it like, what do you get Bill for 2 years? You get Bill maybe for 3 years, and then what? And I like a team like the Falcons that's still kind of in the middle of a rebuild there. It's like,
well, yeah, I think that concern that the Cowboys might have would be the same for any team.
Yeah.
Even more so for the Falcons, because I think the Cowboys are ready to win. They've got all the ingredients.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. Maybe they can get, their Super Bowl win and be like, okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, to me, like if I was a Cowboys fan, it would be worth having Bill Belichick for 3 years if I knew one of them would be a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, the last part is the key.
Yeah.
But if I knew one of them was going to be a Super Bowl,
but the Falcons like needing more help. Than
But
just
I
Bill.
would sign up for it if I were the Falcons and I only had them for 3 years and I knew one of them was going to be a Super Bowl. I would sign up for it.
But that's a
if you're not going to get the Super Bowl,
no, I know, but
you're in the same spot.
But that's a lot more likely with the Cowboys than the Falcons.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a little more likely.
I think a lot more.
I think Bill could do something with that Falcons team.
I'd like to see what Bill did with Micah Parsons. That would be fun.
Yeah, and I mean, that's
certainly
why
take credit
that's why
for it.
McCarthy's getting fired, is because they know that they're a hell of a lot better than one and done.
For everything, all the crap that Jerry Jones does get, they can build a roster down there in Dallas.
I say this all the time.
They're one of the best talent evaluating teams in the league.
All I ever hear is that they're meddling owners that think they're the GM. Stephen Jones is the GM.
Yeah.
And they can't keep their noses out of football. And then every year they get knocked out of the playoffs in the first round, and everybody says they underachieved again. Imagine all that talent.
Right.
And one of those things can't be true.
Right, but if you have the right coach that can mix that talent together, then now you're a Super Bowl contender.
Do you think Bill would?
But is he the right coach?
Yeah, I mean, Will McClay is like he's
I don't
the
know.
real hero behind the scenes there in Dallas.
Is that the guy that they won't let?
Their
even
VP
think
of
about
player
leaving?
ops is like the real scout on that staff, and the Joneses kind of just make the final decisions.
David in Bethlehem, Patriots have a dilemma. It says the subject line is "We're number 3." It's like Friday night when they put the lights on low, and you wonder if you should ask her for that last dance. Hate me, but the Patriots have so many needs that trade back makes sense.
I like that take better than Deuce's. Let's run it back with Mac. Take.
Run it back with Mac.
Take.
I'm making T-shirts. You can buy them on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Trade down and.
Don't mix those up with 28-3 because Mac would stand no chance.
Let's see, Elliot.
3-0.
Who's this? Alex in Mount Holly.
Oh, they said Elliot
says,
Wolf.
yes, algebra does help you in everyday life after grade school. For example,
I love these.
The NEP subtract BB from HC and add JM to equal 7SB. In all seriousness, hope Jerod can start to build some success in a few years. We make the playoffs soon. On to more important news. I think Bill landing in Dallas makes sense for both sides to win a title in a small window. Just don't think the working relationship makes sense between Jerry and Bill. I think the real team to hire Bill is Philly. As for the draft, as a proud North Carolina State alum and hatred for a University of spoiled children, I would be more than happy to take Daniels at 3 because I love the upside in him. I think he could be close to what Stroud had for a rookie regular season if the situation doesn't ruin him. And from what I've heard, he has a better work ethic than May and Williams. Back up Joe Alt and take 2 wide receivers on day 2. Finally, my short list for GM is as follows. Former offensive coordinator assistant Evan Lazar. Elliot Wolf, Dave Ziegler, Bill's dog Nike, and if all else fails, Paul.
If all else fails.
Yeah.
I can live with that.
You're
That was a
low
good
on the
email.
list.
I
They haven't talked to me if I want to interview yet.
I like the work ethic.
What if I say that you're not
Jaden
allowed to?
Daniels has a better
You're gonna
work
block
ethic
it?
than Drake May and Caleb Williams.
I can double dip. I can do both.
Okay.
You need to
seems
get
like
an agent.
seems like a very well sourced take.
Right.
Well, in defense of the emailer, Jaden Daniels does have a lot of positive buzz about how much better he has gotten.
Yeah.
You know, like Caleb Williams has just been good the whole time, which I'm cool with that.
But that means he has a bad work ethic.
No.
Like so those two, he might have the very same work ethic that Jaden Daniels has. He's just started at a higher level.
Yeah. But Jaden Daniels, I was talking to like Keyshawn Booty, for example, in the locker room like a couple months ago about Jaden Daniels, and he was like, he was with him last year, obviously. He's like, last year, like there's a lot of, to be honest, there's a lot of holes in his game. Like there was just things that, you could tell that wasn't all the way there, but now watching him now and talking to the guys back there, he really went to work.
Can I just, you know how sometimes we have these asides on journalism in general? Like, that is a perfect example of why there is a lot of value in being in the locker room and being able to talk to players.
You have to. Evan in the locker room, he goes to work.
No. Like, I know a lot of people think that reporters just want to go in the locker room so they can get the dirt and they can, they cozy up to players and they get their sources and they want to rip everybody and, like Parcells used to say. He used to call us commies. Subvert from within, right? That's what he used to like. That's not generally why everybody wants to do the job, but that's an example of how you can get value out of being in the locker room. You get one of Jaden Daniels' not just teammates from last year, but a guy he threw the ball to last year, and you get his take on a guy like that. That's valuable information. Yes, that is another compliment for you.
That was 2 in one show.
And the other one, you can take it
I'm
if
gonna,
you want.
You telling me that I care about the
mentioned as a
offensive
shot.
line is really meant a lot to me.
Borges used to go in the locker room. Speaking of subverting from within, he'd be like,
They're not using you enough.
Yeah, you're not getting enough reps.
Oh my God. This is true.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You should play more.
Or, I can't believe they haven't given you an extension yet. And just get the guy going.
Yeah, that's what they do in New York.
I do really love that though, like especially with the Patriots locker room. There's a lot of guys in there that have played high level college football, and whether it's talking to guys about Bama guys, LSU guys, Michigan guys,
Lots of
whatever.
Michigan guys.
Virginia Tech. No, just kidding.
There used to be,
Just
not
kidding.
here anymore.
Texas got Adrian Phillips in there from Texas.
Brendan
Hey,
Schooler.
Schooler.
Adrian Phillips.
Sorry, one of them was an All-Pro.
That's
Thanks,
true.
Evan.
A lot of Michigan
It
guys.
wasn't Brandon Phillips.
Eric's in New Jersey. What's up, Eric?
I mean,
Hey, how you guys?
Schooler.
All right.
So we're up against it here. The only issue I had with Kraft's speech the other day is when he gave Elmer Fudd a compliment on saying that he knew more football than him. I just know we're not going to live that one down for a while. But the offensive coordinator search, what do you guys think of, maybe like a Bieniemy, swinging it back, maybe Nick Caley, some of these guys, what is the chances that maybe we can get that farmhouse to where we once had that system where we can just, replenish guys? What do you think Jerod's take moving forward? And I'll take it off the line. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Eric.
Out there, I don't know. I mean, Nick Kelly was gone 1 year. And I like him. I question if that's enough of a shift for a guy who spent 1 year.
I've heard people bring him up as an offensive coordinator.
But he's going to come here and teach the new offense to everybody after just 1 year as whatever he was there.
Nick
Was
Kelly?
he the tight ends
I mean,
coach?
I would bring
Running
him
the
back.
same offense.
Yeah, I'd bring him back as
Where
tight
was he?
ends coach again.
Didn't he go? Wasn't he with the Raiders?
Nick Caley?
He didn't go to the Raiders?
No, he's with the Rams.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, then I would be even more interested in him.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'd much rather try to poach Zach Robinson. If
Yeah,
that's
me
the-
too. And we could always bring back Bill because he would really like Zach Robinson because he covered kicks when he was a rookie. Quarterback covering kicks.
Wait,
in
really?
training camp.
That's
Oh,
really
yeah.
impressive.
Williams and
You're
Phillip.
Lawrence Taylor
What's
did
up,
that,
William?
Seems malpractice.
What's up, Fred? How you doing?
That's
All
how
right.
we made him.
Okay. How's the team doing over there? Y'all okay?
We're good. We're good. How are
Okay?
you?
I'm not great, William.
Oh.
I'm not gonna lie.
It's snowing here, man.
What's the matter, Evan?
Have you seen the football team lately, William? It's not great.
Evan wants a
Yeah.
GM.
It's the heart of the offseason.
I would like it
have
to
seen it
stop,
too, Evan.
stop
I'm
snowing.
trying.
We're
trying to.
we're trying
That's what
together
I'm doing.
because we're brave.
Right. I don't know where to begin because I have so many tapes, and I know it's like 1:45. I know y'all about to be done soon. I'll just start with this one then. Evan, you said something on Catch-22 that Jaden Daniels is something like Justin Fields. So my take to you is, okay, if the Patriots, I'm not saying that I want this to happen, so I don't want nobody frowning quick, but if they did take Marvin Harrison Jr., you wouldn't trade the second round basically to get a Justin Fields, since you saying Jaden Daniels is almost like him or somewhat has some of his traits?
I don't know. I guess if it's a second, maybe I'd think about it. But I just with Justin Fields, I just feel like if it was gonna click for him as a complete passer, it would have clicked. It's kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like you would have seen it by now. And
That's my back problem.
Yeah, I just don't. It's very rare that a guy 5-6 years in. Now it happens. Baker Mayfield, Geno Smith, those guys have done it a little bit, I guess. But it's pretty rare that it just all of a sudden comes together for a guy like that.
Okay. One last question. This is for Paul. Paul, I see that you are very much into trading down. Okay, so can you give me a scenario what it would look like as far as, okay, we trade down with whatever team, what will we get back in return? Other than their pick in the first round, what else will we get?
I didn't know you were into trading down, Paul.
Yeah, I just think it's a possibility if you don't have a quarterback. If a quarterback is not there at 3, I would be listening to offers. But yeah, you get maybe a first-round pick next year and a second-round pick this year. You could, depending on how far that team wants to move, you can get obviously The
Right.
bigger jump a team makes, the more you're going to get.
But the more then you're going to drop.
Right.
Right.
But like that to me is okay because I don't need Alt or Fashanu. I can get another tackle, at 11. I don't need to get the best tackle. Quarterback, I want my pick of the litter. Like that's a little bit different.
You got to love them. Thanks, Willem. Let's see.
But I'm not necessarily,
That's not you.
gung ho for trading down. I just think it's if Williams and May go 1-2 and you're not sold on Daniels, I think that's in play.
There might be some interest for that pick. I mean, you've got
Because
Daniels is going to be there.
Because
Somebody's
someone
gonna
will
want the
be
receiver.
interested in Daniels, and a team that maybe already has a quarterback might strongly be interested in Harrison.
Yep.
Or Nabbers.
So last year the Cardinals traded down exactly from 3, right? They went from 3 to 12. Now that's a little bit far for me.
Yeah, that's the Houston pick,
But
right?
so that's the Houston pick. So they got for number 3, they got number 12, number 33, a 2024 first rounder, and a 2024 third rounder for number 3 and number 105.
Yeah, that's
a
a haul.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
9 spots though. That's
but
a
I'd
long
be
way
but
to
I'd
go.
be interested in that if I had decided I don't really like Daniels.
Right. So what they did,
If
though,
I like
right?
Daniels, I'm staying put and taking.
Because then they traded back up from 12. So they used what they got and to trade back up like 3 or 4 spots to take Paris Johnson at like 7 or something like that. So
It sounds good. That's a haul. I mean, and when you're a team like the Patriots right now, it's
And they're short on draft picks.
2 first rounders next year. I mean, I like that.
Gino from Jersey, just wanted to point out what you guys said earlier about drafting Harrison and ending up like the Jets with Wilson. Why can't we go the 49ers route and get the players first for any quarterback to succeed? I know it might be difficult because you'd have to draft right and develop players, but if we're patient enough, the payoff could be amazing. What's your opinion?
Okay, so that is a possibility, and that is something that a lot of people talk about. So what do you think of Breece Hall as a player? What do you think of Garrett Wilson, Jeremiah Johnson? These pretty good players.
Jermaine
right?
Johnson.
Jermaine, what did I call him? Jeremiah? Jermaine Johnson.
Quinnen
I knew who you're talking about.
But Quinnen Williams would be another one. Like, so the Jets are an example of the Niners. They're trying to get everything quarterback proof.
Mm-hmm.
Then
But they don't have a quarterback.
Yep.
And how long can you keep the quarterback proof
Right.
together?
So they did the same thing that the Niners did, only they did it at 2 instead of 3. Same draft. Same bust. It's hard. And if Brock Purdy was no good, I'm not arguing with you. If he was no good at all, they would not be a Super Bowl threat.
Mm-hmm.
If he was Zach Wilson, playing like Zach Wilson with the Jets, they would not be a threat to go to the Super Bowl.
Kyle would have Zach Wilson playing like a stud.
That's a different argument.
I'm just kidding.
No, but that's a different argument, and that might be true.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to be said about these quarterbacks getting in different spots, and that can make a big imprint on. I think Bill helped Tom.
Yeah.
I don't think Brady would have been Brady just anywhere.
I think that's such a big part of it. I always say it all, like I say too much, but like it's nurturing, right? Like it's not just all these guys got talent. Like Jaden Daniels, Drake May, Caleb, like all 3 of them have an immense amount of talent. The question is,
I just
can
feel
you,
like everybody talks about, well, build the team and then put the quarterback in it. And they mentioned San Francisco. They mentioned Philadelphia. No one mentions the other teams that try to do it and it doesn't work. Like the Jets. The Jets have hit on a lot of picks.
Mm-hmm.
Sauce Gardner, he any good?
All pro.
Like
2
they've
years
hit
pro.
on a lot of their picks. They've done what the Niners did, but they don't have a quarterback. So I know they're trying to plop Aaron Rodgers in, and we'll see what happens. It might work.
But to Deuce's point too, like reality is that's not all that sustainable, because eventually guys get expensive. The roster starts to age out. Things
And it's really hard to hit every time.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's
like,
way harder to do what the Niners did personnel-wise than it is to hit on Joe Burrow.
The Niners, as much as I make fun of Brock Purdy, like at least Brock Purdy's young, right? And they have him on the rookie contract for the foreseeable future, so they get that benefit. But like a team like the Jets, if it works, it's going to work for like 1 year with Aaron Rodgers.
And then they got to pay Sauce
because Zach Wilson didn't work.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. It's been a good show. We got to end a little early, but tomorrow at noon is the Jerod Mayo presser. do we have playbook tomorrow or no? No playbook. But then Thursday we'll be back at noon with Catch 22 in the morning before us. So get ready for tomorrow. Get your popcorn out. See you then.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.